The legendary Hollywood director. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376 in progress. Subscription recommendation required. The two chatted until late and then went back to their rooms to rest. Jim Carrey is a playful person, but also a person who likes to get stuck in a rut. He just broke up with his girlfriend Jenny McCarthy, and he was in a carefree state. He went into the bathroom, took a shower, and lay down on the bed. He was still thinking about what Lyman said. He was famous enough, but because of the gossip of some film critics, he went to act in art films and wanted to win an Oscar to prove himself. He was stupid enough. With his current status, he had no shortage of roles to play and fame. How many actors envied the life, but he had to sink into the art circle and waste his talent. However, if he could find the right position like Michael Bay from the beginning, and firmly believe in his explosive charm, and not crave to get close to the Oscar, he would not be the Jim Carrey who always pursued an acting career. Regarding transformation, Lyman did give him advice. When he accepted a role, he should slowly withdraw from the comedy element and not switch from one end to the other all at once. His goal is to make light comedies like The Truman Show and The Dreamers that are funny but also have depth. This will make the audience feel that he is still the same Jim Carrey, bring laughter to people, and slowly transition. As the saying goes, if you take a big step, you will lose money. In the past few years, he was deeply troubled by this. He lost the box office and did not win any awards. It was not worth it. Now thinking about it, he has some new insights. He closed his eyes and slowly relaxed his mind. The melancholy slowly dissipated, as if all the muscles in his body were loose. Oh, so that's what happened. I have been in this situation. Why do I still care so much about what others think? Strange. Lying on the bed, feeling the relaxation that he had never felt before, he slowly fell asleep. Come on, come and help. The town of Aptuba in the early morning slowly became lively again. On the set, everyone started to work again. The lighting technician was adjusting the light, pursuing the effect of brightness and saturation. There was also a bit of warmth in the light. Thomas was in charge of the #1 camera, following the scene. Another member of the camera crew sat on the track, controlling another camera. Jim Carrey, wearing that old suit, stayed at home, turned on his computer, and logged into a website. It was a dating and marriage website. He smiled and looked at the personal information posted by Cheryl on the website, but the hand holding the mouse could not click the send message button. In the bright room, Jim Carrey shrugged his shoulders and moved his head forward. This posture seemed to be fixed, only his eyes were still staring at Cheryl's photo. The camera was behind, gently panning to the sides. There was a bed with an unmade quilt, the window was open, and a breeze came in. In the subtle, you could feel his struggle and wavering. The theme of the movie is of course light-hearted, not heavy. So, after thinking for a while, he still clicked the send message button. He breathed a sigh of relief and asked again. It turned out that the website showed that it could not be opened. He tried many times, but it was still the same. Jim Carrey went crazy, and his expectant eyes dimmed. Unexpectedly, even websites like to tease a loser like him. Well, this shot is very pleasing and funny. He was complaining seriously. Is there no one to maintain the website? I spent more than half a month's salary to buy a second-hand computer, but I can't log in, and it keeps lagging. It's really rubbish. Click. Okay, this one passed. Lyman was very happy, and the crew immediately started to work. They started to set up again. Jim Carrey was in really good shape. This role was the kind of life of a small person in the city, which was funny and inspiring. He acted very well. Then, he entered the next set of shots. While directing, Lyman compared the plan for shooting the scenes and thought about it. In his spare time, he took a look at Jim Carrey. He found that, after putting on a little makeup, he sat on a chair and closed his eyes to think about something. The orange light like dusk shone into the house. It was still the same set as before, but with some minor changes. It became Walter Mitty's mother helping him tidy up the house. Some useless things were put into a big cardboard box and prepared to be thrown away. While sorting, Walter Mitty found a travel notebook. It was left to him by his father. There were route maps with many attractions drawn on it. Apart from these, there were no other signs on it. In his 40 years of life, Walter Mitty had never left this small town, let alone travel to other countries. It is here when he opens his eyes, and it is still here when he closes his eyes. His mother is old and nagging. Walter Mitty wanted to throw away this notebook. After thinking about it, he kept it. Jim Carrey's acting is more relaxed, very natural, without any burden. It's not that his previous acting was bad, but now he is moving up to the passing line. Satisfaction, pleasure, enjoyment. He can feel it himself. While eating lunch at noon, Jim Carrey came to talk. I stopped daydreaming, and my mind became much faster. Slowly accumulate. If you want to be able to act in any role and the audience can accept everything, you still have a long way to go. Seeing that he was carefree, Lemon smiled and said, "There is one thing you have to understand. Genre actors are like taking shortcuts. You see, after you have made a name for yourself in comedy, the audience will support you in this aspect. Non-comedy is a little more difficult, and not so many people support you. You should understand it yourself. Is the road narrowing? I know." Jim Carrey was still nodding. In the afternoon, the staff was busy putting makeup on Hilary Swank. After the initial unbearable experience, she was slowly getting on the right track. At least, when performing, she could control herself, and her body language could be more bold. Every time the two of them acted together, it was the funny part of the play. Of course, Hilary Swank was still a little short of the heat, and could barely keep up with Jim Carrey's pace. In contrast, when facing her, Jim Carrey's performance of liking her, but not daring to say it out loud was more subtle, and it also made a fool of Cheryl, who was carefree, thinking that she could think what he thought, but she never accepted his love hints. As you go back and forth, the main line of the plot has been pushed forward. The magazine is going to be acquired by another news group, and the employees have been clearly notified of layoffs. In order to publish the last issue, everyone wants to do it perfectly, and it is a farewell. But the photo negatives sent by a very good photographer who was in charge of Walter Mitty were missing the most critical one. And this photographer is famous for his love of running around, traveling all over the world. The phone call was not connected, and he couldn't find her at home. When Walter Mitty hesitated, he finally went out to look for her with the encouragement of Cheryl. Chapter 377 Spinning Top. Subscription recommendation. The filming time always goes by so fast. In the blink of an eye, a week has passed. The crew is back on track, and they are still filming every day. On the other hand, Hellboy, directed by Gyro and distributed by Lionsgate, is finally released. It is scheduled 1 week after Spider-Man 2, just at the end of the summer season. Spider-Man 2 continues the hot momentum of its predecessor. The attendance rate is very high, and the midnight preview has earned more than $4 million, setting a box office record for midnight shows. On the first day of the premiere, the global cumulative audience reached more than 130 million. However, the audience of Hellboy does not overlap much with that of Spider-Man. Lionsgate did not want to steal the limelight from Spider-Man, and promoted it, and pushed it into theaters on its own. July 3rd, Friday. A very ordinary day. Hellboy has limited publicity investment, and there is no fancy premiere that wastes money. In the last few days before the release, the movie trailer was bombarded in large quantities on TV at midnight. Even under such circumstances, fans who are interested will still be interested. Cult people are a very strange group of people. They will specifically search for this type of movie to watch. Therefore, for a director like Gyro who is somewhat famous in the cult circle, the attendance rate is not bad. On average, it can reach 40%. It also got 2.85 million box office on the first day, although it can't even touch the fraction of Spider-Man. However, it was released simultaneously around the world, and the publicity and promotion cost more than 100 million, so there is no need to compare. But the medium-sized production Anchorman released by DreamWorks in the same period can be said. Because Will Ferrell and Christina Applegate repeatedly hyped up the crew scandals, and the two were actors who debuted in TV dramas and had good popularity, they got $3.26 million on the first day, slightly surpassing Hellboy. On the second day, the attendance rate of both movies increased, but the number of screenings did not change. Anchorman increased to 3.67 million, while Hellboy suddenly increased to 3.43 million. On the third day, the box office of Anchorman fell back, while Hellboy continued to rise, surpassing Hellboy by 3.79 million to 3.56 million. It was not until this time that Lionsgate's targeted publicity and accurate target positioning began to gradually play a role. As the number of viewers who watched Hellboy increased, the word of mouth effect spread rapidly. Of course, in the eyes of those professional film critics, this film is a piece of garbage that is full of violence, blood, bad taste, and extremely boring plots. What asterisk summons monsters, and the monsters are subdued by the US military. There is no logic. There are also monsters that are influenced by Dr. Shax, help the US military to do things, suppress terrorist actions around the world, and fight a group of people alone. To invincible, brainless. Well, think about it from another angle. If the protagonist is not a monster from hell, but a superpower like Marvel and DC, it may be a very popcorn superhero movie. But it is still necessary to criticize it, and Lionsgate is prepared for this. It is a cult movie. It would be strange if it is not criticized. Unfortunately, these voices criticizing the bad movie cannot stop its box office from rising. Some viewers have spoken well of the movie, saying that it is very enjoyable and exciting to watch, with blood and flesh flying everywhere, and the bloodiness of the battle is as high as possible, such as headshots, chest penetrations, and throwing out to smash into pulp. Anyway, as long as the enemy encounters the protagonist, there are various ways to die. Less than a week after its release, the reputation of Hellboy has directly split, and it is very polarized. Those who like it give it 5 stars, and those who don't like it don't even want to give it 1 star. Those who are more objective basically give it around 3 stars. In fact, it is fair to say that apart from the boring plot, the costumes and props of Hellboy are still nothing to say. It is a very delicate and enjoyable brainless B-level movie. Although it is not very high-end, and has no depth, it is just enjoyable enough to attract many cult audiences who just want to change their minds. After all, what can determine the box office market of a movie is not just the reputation of film reviews, otherwise there would be no distinction between commercial and literary. Sometimes, even the quality of the film itself cannot be determined. Controversy surrounding the movie is not a bad thing in itself. Is there any popularity? No matter whether it is a good or bad aspect, Lionsgate's publicity strategy has this link anyway, and they also go with the flow and spend money to blacken themselves. Gyro has been scolded recently and it is a headache. In this era, when traditional media has not yet declined, and the emerging internet era has not yet completely risen, film critics still have a lot of say. Take the newspaper. The comments of the plot is pale and meaningless are still good. Some film critics have directly begun to doubt whether the director's aesthetics are different from those of normal people. It is extremely vulgar, but he feels good about himself. It makes people depressed after watching it, but they want to see how others evaluate it. Just when I was worried, yesterday's box office statistics came out 4.26 million. The total accumulated in 4 days is $14.33 million US. After a while, his subordinate Will Colin also knocked on the door of the office and walked in. A survey company hired by Lionsgate sent us yesterday's sampling survey report. Will Colin handed the report to Gyro and continued. They conducted a field sampling survey in 26 theaters in 10 cities. 1,235 people were randomly selected for the movie, of which more than 83% were male audiences. 76% were over 20 years old. 54% were ethnic minorities, and the average score was 6.4. This was an on-site survey from the audience after they watched the film, and the true evaluation of the market potential far exceeded that of the so-called film critics. To be more precise, the public can represent the public. But Gyro was still in a bad mood. Although the score of 6.4 was indeed a bit low for mainstream movies, it was at least a passing score, not to mention that in cult movies, 6.4 was already very good, at least above the middle level. But the feeling of being scolded was still so unpleasant, especially when someone pointed at his nose and mocked his aesthetics. For a director, this has already involved the issue of the foundation of his career. Of course, he himself was not convinced. He thinks the plot is outdated, and it is the template of a cool novel from more than a decade ago, but one cannot deny his unified arrangement of scenes, costumes, and makeup. Moreover, in shaping the image of Hellboy, he did not use computer special effects to please others, but really spent 6 or 7 hours a day putting on and removing makeup, which was very troublesome for real shooting. Didn't anyone notice all this? It would be fine if you don't praise him, but blindly belittling him is really frustrating. After so many years of struggling in the film industry and always being in the middle and lower levels, the only thing that Gyro is proud of is his artistic attainments in the film, which is 3-dimensional, realistic, and beautiful. No one specifically praises this aspect, which is so annoying. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 378 At a library. Please subscribe and recommend. Lyman's good headquarters, in a conference room. A routine morning meeting is being held. John Fellamy, the company's executive, is sitting at the head of the conference table and says to John Navar, the head of the distribution department, "This cooperation with Firefly Pictures is very good. We have signed a film with great market value. In the future, we will deepen our relationship with them." John Navar nodded. "After this, we will have more contact with their management." Yeah. John Fellamy seemed very satisfied. The company was established not long ago, and every successful film released is very meaningful to the company's development. He asked, "Now, what is the scale of the theater chain for this film?" Another executive replied, "It has increased to 1,854. Among the movies released at the same time, the number is still considerable. However, Spider-Man 2 has already obtained 4,123 theaters, and the number of screens on the market is a bit tight." John Fellamy sighed. "There is no way. Spider-Man 2 has accumulated more than 370 million in global box office, and more than 160 million in domestic box office. I heard that the theater attendance rate can still maintain 50%. There is still room for exploration of screening potential. The screens on the market must be closely followed. However, with our achievements, we must also strive for more screenings and theaters with the theaters. Well, in terms of publicity, I will approve another $4 million to increase the scale of publicity. Yes, I will contact them," the head of the marketing department said. "These tasks are not difficult." Throughout July, Spider-Man 2 took the lead, but if we put aside this commercial masterpiece, the rest did not have such performance. Just last Wednesday, Hellboy's single-day output of $4.22 million was also the runner-up in the box office list that day. If we discuss the scheduling issue with the theater, with this market data, it will be more competitive than other less popular movies. Anyone with a bit of brains would mention Hellboy, to maintain the diversity of film genres on the market and increase the choices for the audience. I heard that Firefly Pictures still has several projects that have not been released. John Fellamy asked again. John Navar replied, "Yes, there's Trip to New York with an investment of hundreds of millions, and there's Saw 2, and Saw 3 is in preparation." John Fellamy nodded slightly. "Trip to New York is not something we can take on, but Paramount has been holding the distribution rights to the Saw series. Their relationship should not be good. I heard that Paramount has had some opinions about Firefly Pictures since last year, this kind of horror movie." John Navar naturally understood what his boss meant, and smiled bitterly, precisely because these two companies are a bit dirty. Firefly Pictures should not cut off contact with Paramount. The last time we went to fight for it, their attitude was still very obvious. John Fellamy did not give up. No matter what, the ideas that should be expressed still need to be expressed. Continue to build a good relationship with Firefly Pictures and always pay attention to the specific progress of this project. A week later, the screening situation on the market became clearer. Anchorman began to reduce the number of theaters due to its own lack of performance, and allocated to other newly released movies. The total box office in the second week was only $14.65 million US, plus the previous one, a total of $22.65 million. Compared with the shooting cost and the publicity cost, there is a slight gap, but if the overseas distribution rights are added, DreamWorks will undoubtedly make money, but not much. After all, in addition to the commission of the distributor, the upper limit of the box office of the movie, that is, the size of the meat itself, is not much. As for Hellboy, the box office in the second week reached $21.36 million US, plus the box office of the first 3 days of the weekend, a total of $31.43 million US. Although the movie's rating on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes is not high, it has dropped to 6.2 points, but the leading actor on Perelman has undoubtedly regained the title of a professional monster, and the violent and funny performances in it also satisfied the audience. Other actors such as the heroine and the supporting actor, although not as eye-catching as the hero, the popularity of the movie also gave them a hand. Before the film was released, many people received new film projects. As for the one who gained the most, it must be director Gyro. Whether it is criticized or praised, Hellboy has once again raised his reputation in the industry, and he is slowly moving towards the ranks of first-line directors. In mid-July, when the momentum of Spider-Man 2 began to decline sharply, the superhero movie Catwoman starring Oscar-winning actress Halle Berry opened strongly, and Warner took a heavy step in the development of DC. Catwoman was very popular on the first day of its release. Due to Warner's strong publicity, many viewers wanted to see what this blockbuster shot by Halle Berry was like. But after watching it, 50% of the audience felt reluctant, 30% of the audience felt it was terrible, and the remaining 20% were all Halle Berry's fans who didn't care what the movie was about. They just gave it a good review because of Halle Berry's sexy figure. Unfortunately, the number of brainless fans was not enough to suppress the extremely bad characteristics of the entire movie, and the reputation directly slid to the bottom. Warner Brothers is also very capable. It decisively cut off its own arm, and did not spend a lot of money on public relations. It was an otherwise cold treatment. Some media commented very objectively, if the Spider-Man series perfectly brought out the wonderful aspects of comic book adaptations, then Catwoman is just the opposite. Although Halle Berry's hard work in the film is commendable, and she is also very pleasing to the eye, after wearing the Catwoman costume, it is difficult for her alone to save the failure of this movie. The narrative is confusing, the production is shoddy, and the visual effects are also average. It can only be regarded as a third-rate movie. I don't know where the nearly $100 million production funds were spent. On the first day of the release of Catwoman, the performance was quite good, with an average attendance rate of 80%. As a result, the attendance rate on the second day dropped to 50%, and on the third day, it could not even maintain half of the attendance rate. Many media are laughing at Warner Brothers for finding a bunch of big-name actors and extremely qualified behind-the-scenes teams, but the result is that the strong combination has produced a bunch of rubbish. However, even though the box office response of Catwoman is not ideal, it has a huge impact on Hellboy. The number of theaters that were snatched away, and the crowds that watched movies on a whim caused Hellboy to plummet. The daily output was barely maintained at around 1.5 million. However, the film's mission has been accomplished. Cult films have a small audience, so once the popularity has passed, it is normal. In comparison, Catwoman occupies so many screens, but the daily output is only 7.23 million. Many Warner executives are almost embarrassed. Compared with the previous great expectations, it is a huge disappointment. After making this movie, it is conservatively estimated that the loss is more than tens of millions. It's miserable. Chapter 379 Iceland. Subscription recommendation. Although Lyman has been in the society for many years, he has been to many places. In his previous life, he traveled around Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan and China. In this life, he traveled back and forth between France and the United States, and visited some scenic spots. But he never thought that the scenery in Iceland would be so shocking. It was evening now, and the crew rushed here, after finishing the scenes in the town. After getting off the plane, he sat on the bus that had been contacted long ago. In the distance, the sun began to set towards the sea level, and a golden sunset glow appeared on the horizon. the breeze, the sea, the coldness, and the emptiness. Driving on Highway 1, looking at flocks of seabirds and exposed volcanic rocks. When the sun was embedded in the sea level, the sky and the earth seemed to be coated with a layer of rose red. Lemon kept looking out the window and was very glad that he chose Iceland as the location for the movie. It is totally worth taking pictures of such a beautiful scenery. Ryan smiled and said, "Shocking, right?" When the location scout handed me the photos for the first time, it looked beautiful. But when I really stepped into this place, what I saw with my eyes was far more interesting than what the camera saw. Lemon nodded, then shook his head. The only pity is that it's too cold. It must be troublesome to live here permanently. Haha. Everyone in the car, including the driver, was dressed in heavy clothes. There was no way. It was 23 degrees in France and 7 degrees here. According to the driver, it was still good weather. If it rained, it would be cold to the bone. Even so, it's still summer, which is the best time to travel to Iceland. It's also the most suitable season for tourism throughout the year. However, although Iceland is close to the Arctic Circle, 1/8 of the island is covered by glaciers, with the Greenland Sea to the north, the Norwegian Sea to the northeast, and the Denmark Strait to the northwest. Its geothermal resources are unexpectedly rich. There are many bays, beaches, alpine lakes, and volcanoes, so it is also called the land of ice and fire. The number of hot springs is the highest in the world, and the key is that they are densely distributed. The temperature on the island is also changeable, and it is often affected by the warm current of the North Atlantic. After the car arrived at the small town of Hoffen along Highway 1, it stayed in a country hotel called Harry. The next day, the filming continued. Crew. Jane Reno squatted on a big rock on the coast with a camera, thinking about how to take the most beautiful view of the endless sea. On the other side, two cameras were also facing him. Not far away, Walter Mitty, played by Jim Carrey, finally got the trace of photographer scene from the mouths of the locals and hurried over. Click. Hearing the movement, Scene, played by Jane Reno, turned around and took a picture of Jim Carrey. Lemon glanced at the two people drinking hot water and continued to talk about the scene with the group he found locally. Before coming to the crew, Jane Reno had a friendly attitude, but he didn't care about this role. It's a guest appearance, the role is not heavy, and there is not much room for performance. However, the scenery in Iceland is really beautiful, and Jim Carrey's performance is as good as ever. When he was not filming, he wandered around. In addition to paying attention to the filming of the crew, he liked to carry the props he prepared, a Sony camera, to shoot everywhere. When Lemon saw it, he would joke that he was thinking about the role and putting himself into the inner world of a famous photographer. This made him feel that this crew was very different. The relationship between the director and the actors, the crew, and the filming team was very harmonious, and there was a more interesting atmosphere than most crews. The focus of the play Daydreamer was entirely on Jim Carrey. The main plot has always been Walter Mitty, who went from a small person who could only fantasize to embracing reality by looking for photos of photographer scene. Therefore, most of the time, different extras had to be found to act with him. As for the pilot, he really found a local pilot with rich driving experience. Not here yet. Lemon glanced at Ryan. I'll be here soon. The helicopter has already been arranged. Ryan waved his hand and asked Thomas, who was not very tactful, to help deal with the crew affairs. He walked out. He had been in charge of renting the helicopter, but he didn't expect it to arrive after the stipulated time. If it was an ordinary prop, it would be fine. The problem is that it is impossible for the prop team to build a helicopter by themselves. He was secretly unhappy about being stood up. He took out his phone and called. Why? It hasn't arrived yet? It's almost here. I encountered something when I just set out, so I was delayed for a while. Well, hurry up. Everyone is waiting. 10 minutes later, the pilot who came late apologized and got to know everyone in the crew. Everyone is here. What else is there to say? Outside the studio, Jim Carrey silently put on his life jacket and got into the helicopter with the pilot. The space inside the helicopter is not large, so the camera is fixed on the left fuselage, and there is no need for the photographer to follow. In this scene, Walter Mitty found a pilot to fly him to the port of Grundarfjörður in Iceland because he couldn't buy a boat ticket. This is also a funny point. The reason is that the pilot is said to be a drinker. While flying the helicopter, he can also drink a sip or two. He also said that people here like to do this and can drive away the cold, and persuaded Walter Mitty to have a sip. Such good intentions made Walter Mitty very scared. But the pilot was really tough. He didn't want to drink and even didn't want to fly the helicopter. At that time, in the air, no one was driving, and it shook a little in an instant. Walter Mitty quickly took the bottle and drank it. After a while, he felt dizzy and dreamed that the helicopter fell into the sea and attracted a large group of sharks. As a result, he was extremely brave and swam faster than the sharks and saved the unlucky pilot together. In the midst of this sigh, the dream woke up again and the helicopter landed steadily. The plot is like this, but it is naturally not so real when it is really performed. The pilot did take a bottle of wine, but it was full of hot sugar water. But the flight was really necessary. Because of the trivialities, it took most of the day to complete the filming. It was uncomfortable to fly in the air, but Jim Carrey overcame it all. Speaking of which, the audience doesn't care much about the private lives of Hollywood stars, but if there is a problem with their professional attitude, it will be very disgusting. Jim Carrey has long passed the period when he just became popular and couldn't control his mentality. People don't like to take performances and don't respect them. In this regard, Jane Reno also has a good impression of him. The more famous the actor is, the more annoying he is when he acts like a big shot. On the contrary, doing his job well makes people look at him with admiration. There is a feeling of status and reputation added. It's like a popular star. No matter what he does, there is always a magnified effect. It's the same for wrong things or good things. Chapter 389. Subscription recommendation. The market appeal of actors determines the concentration of resources in the circle. Many actors in the circle are envious of Jim Carrey's getting the leading role in Lemon's new movie. Everyone knows that Lemon's movies are very popular, and there are actors who have expressed their willingness to cooperate in a tactful way. But he is always perfunctory. When the news came out, the media did not react much. After all, there was no public promotion. Many film and television companies speculated in their hearts that the type of the new movie might be a comedy. Jim Carrey, what else can he do if not comedy? This is the view of many people. At the beginning, he insisted on chasing the Oscar and plunged into the literary and artistic circle. It was also one of the reasons why no strong production company invited him to cooperate again. They are the group of people who value the market prospect the most. Moreover, the director is Lemon. This guy always likes to try new things. Some people even think that he is crazy and does thankless things. For example, after filming Three Idiots and winning the Oscar for Best Foreign Language, he went to film the World War II movie Fury. After a lot of hard work, Bad Guys is back on track and continues to sell well at the box office. Instead of seizing the success in this area and abandoning the market reputation, they go to make a romantic movie. I have never seen a director who is so unfocused. If they were to choose, they would definitely follow the successful genres, dig deeper, and make a name for themselves as directors. For example, when it comes to gangster movies, Martin Scorsese comes to mind. When it comes to satirical black comedy, the most artistic director who is best at constructing the plot with lines is Woody Allen. But considering his usual style, I guess he is not settled yet, so he keeps trying new genres. Well, he thinks so himself. Movies are full of variables, how good, and more challenging. Lemon is good at driving the story with characters, and this fact has been emphasized more than once before. This is also why actors in the industry think his plays are very flattering. Most of the perspectives are focused on the characters, so how can the audience not pay more attention to them? After joining the crew of Daydreamer, Jim Carrey also truly felt Lemon's ability as a director to control the crew and handle the work with ease. Everyone was originally shooting everywhere in France, and they went to Iceland to shoot everywhere, and they were all real shots. There were very few scenes completed in the studio. It was not something that ordinary directors could do to make such a large filming team without any confusion and contradictions. Then, this guy also liked to call Thomas, Ryan and other core members of the crew from time to time, including actors who had scenes the next day, to discuss the next shooting together, so that everyone had an idea in their minds first, so that the shooting would be smoother. Nowadays, few directors are willing to do this. In order to ensure their dignity, or because they don't like to talk about the play, they usually don't communicate with the actors on an equal footing about how to shoot and listen to other people's opinions. He is different. If he thinks the idea is good, he will even resort the scenes for the actors, and add some of the actors' own ideas. In Giancarlo's view, Lyman has a strong desire to create. He often sees this kind of creative desire in the independent literary and artistic circles. On the contrary, the more rigorous the commercial film, the more personal thoughts are erased. Everyone shoots and releases according to the rules. He often sees quarrels, and then being suppressed by the investors. Therefore, being respected for his opinions is also the reason why he admires Lyman. He is so successful and so enterprising. This reminds Jim Carrey of when he just made a name for himself in Hollywood with Ace Ventura. He was very proud of the praise from everyone, countless cooperation invitations, and compliments from people around him during the drinking party. During that period, he was also the most arrogant. He acted like a big shot, and was deliberately late for filming. In short, he was very arrogant. Later, he was able to calm down, after he became more and more successful. But after chatting with Thomas and Ryan, I learned that, when Lyman made a movie, what he liked most was to draw a framework and everyone filled it in together. He didn't like to be arbitrary. This is also his style of doing things. He doesn't care about others, nor is he cared about by others. Or, he was able to create Firefly Pictures just to make better movies. The most important thing is that Lyman has been so successful and has won the annual box office champion in France, but he can still maintain this relatively harmonious crew atmosphere. This is not easy. When the west wind comes, the fleeting years change secretly. The time of shooting always passes so quickly, as if in a trance. July has passed. This month's Hollywood movies once again brought a lot of exciting box office results to the entire film industry. This month alone, the monthly box office of Hollywood movies has reached $960 million, an increase of 11% year-on-year in July last year, and there are 2 films with a box office of over $100 million in the month. Of course, there is no Hellboy among them. Although the movie has not been completely taken off the screen, and is struggling to survive in hundreds of theaters, the domestic cumulative revenue of the film in January has barely exceeded $50 million, which is considered to be barely recovering the cost of expenditure. However, relying on Europa Pictures' overseas operations and the offline channels in peripheral development of the copyright itself, there is definitely no problem in terms of profitability. It is estimated that the film can earn more than $20 million, which is the limit of the film. Therefore, in addition to Spider-Man 2, there are other films that have broken the $100 million mark in the local market. It was mid-July when Catwoman was in a huge slump. 20th Century Fox suddenly launched the modern science fiction film I, Robot, also known as I, Robot, which entered the market. Originally, the July schedule was not so lively. Relying on the market capacity, if 3 first-line commercial blockbusters were really released in succession, they would only be damaged. It is impossible to tap the maximum market potential. But who made Catwoman fail to hold the market? The 20 or so Fox companies are also amazing. They seized the opportunity and pushed the movie into the theaters after only a few days of publicity and promotion. They first took up the market share. In this way, Catwoman became more embarrassed. As soon as I, Robot was released, most of the theaters showing Catwoman were cut in half. It was already miserable, but without the support of the theaters, it was even more miserable. It could have made millions of dollars in daily turnover, but with I, Robot, it couldn't even get this little box office money. Alas, Warner Brothers was heartbroken, but Fox was laughing happily. I, Robot, which was scheduled in advance, had no rivals on the market, and Spider-Man 2 had passed its strong period. This movie directly took up 70% of the market share, and then, the movie broke $100 million. Chapter 38 August, Subscription Recommendation. The reason why I, Robot has a box office of over 100 million yuan is that it has seized the opportunity, but its quality is also very good. The director is Precarious, who has a good record in the Australian director circle. He grew up in Egypt and is a Greek. Later he immigrated to Sydney. His representative works include The Crow and Aurora Pursuit. They are all science fiction movies. The male lead is the popular movie star Will Smith, the veteran actor James Cromwell, and the female lead Bridget Moynihan. It tells the story of how people and machines coexist after these highly developed intelligent machines give birth to thoughts in the future technological era under the constraints of the three laws, and whether humans themselves are more trustworthy than machines. Facts have proved that Will Smith's box office appeal is still so strong. Compared with Johnny Depp or Tobey Maguire, who became popular at the same time, most of the movies starring Will Smith are not as well known, but the box office momentum is not weak. Even in the eyes of some people, Johnny Depp and Tobey Maguire took the light of the film subject itself. Spider-Man is even more well known in comics, and a large part of Pirates of the Caribbean is also due to the glory of the sequel. Of course, the Captain does have such charm. And Will Smith, Bad Boys, Independence Day, Men in Black. There are not so many external reasons for one after another. Moreover, Robot has done a good job in marketing and publicity. Although it is a bit hasty, we have to admire the action of 20th Century Fox. Even if it is scheduled in advance, it still wins the support of the audience. The quality of the film is excellent. There is no competitor to compete for the market, relying on these two hands, and it is a science fiction film that relies on special effects. The visual enjoyment is full, the plot is delicate, the storyline is clear, and there is a certain connotation. How can it not be popular? This summer, it is almost a luxury for the audience to see a commercial film with a complete structure and above the standard in the cinema, especially after the destruction of movies such as Van Helsing, Troy, and Catwoman. The audience has long been eager for good works. Of course, there is another important point. The series of publicity for Will Smith's reputation was well hyped by the media. He debuted as a rapper, and his transformation into an actor has good box office, coupled with the increasingly prosperous black film market. To some extent, Will Smith has caught up with a good era. In the past, it was simply a fantasy to have a black actor play the leading role. Moreover, the African American community must indeed be taken seriously by the market. According to statistics, the proportion of African American audiences supporting Robot is much higher than that of other commercial films. Even though the cumulative box office of Spider-Man 2 is much higher than that of Robot still wins in terms of African American audiences. A lot of African American audiences went to the cinema specifically to support Will Smith. Of course, good timing is also very important. I believe that 20th Century Fox will be very grateful for Warner's cooperation. In early August, the filming of Daydreamer continued. Highway 1 in Iceland. The crew's residence. Several temporary cabins have lighting equipment on their roofs, which illuminate the road in front with an orange-yellow beauty. Several jibs support the camera, and there is also a camera on the long track, set up along the road. Thomas was directing the camera crew to find the right angle for the composition. The light is not aimed at the right position. Move it a little to the right, and lower the brightness. Lemon shouted to the lighting crew from below. Jim Carrey changed his costume and came out with a speed skating longboard in his hand. Later, he will skate downhill on Highway 1 from the top of a slope. This shot, which is less than 3 minutes long, required the crew to prepare for several days. Several huge pulleys extended from the house to the side of the highway, and the camera hanging on the jib was also ready. The lighting crew over there adjusted the lights again. Lemon felt that it was almost done, so he picked up the loudspeaker and shouted, "Attention, all departments." While shouting, he waited for the gestures of the heads of each department. After everything was figured out, Lemon stood back behind the director's camera. The crew member who served as the script supervisor also held the script board in front of the camera. The Daydreamer, scene 76. First shot, action. Not far away, Jim Carrey tied 2 stones to his palms. Once you get on the skateboard, you slide down the slope. To turn or slow down, you just squat down, put your palms on the ground, and rely on the friction of the stone to complete the desired action. He has been preparing for several days to practice this. In fact, the speed of skateboarding is not fast, and there is no danger, but if you practice well, it will be more beautiful. The camera moves along both sides, and the camera on the jib is used to shoot the surrounding scenery and the white clouds in the sky. The plot of Finding the Photographer later is more specific and vivid when it is said to be a travel movie. It is to let the audience follow Walter Mitty's footsteps and appreciate many beautiful shots that cannot be seen, such as whales spouting water, seabirds flying in the sky, volcanoes, hot springs, and even glaciers. The incomparable beauty of nature is also so desirable when put under the camera. In the long lens, Jim Carrey's speed skating posture and the relaxed smile on his face can also show that he is enjoying it all. Just as Walter Mitty left the town and went to one beautiful spot after another that could only be imagined, he was also enjoying everything on the journey. In this road scene, the camera moves horizontally, connecting the blue sky, white clouds, and the leisure of a person alone. The use of wide-angle long lenses can make the audience follow the lens and slowly focus their attention, and can also make the picture more realistic and heavy. Click. Next shot. When Jim Carrey's figure was about to leave the camera's field of view, Lyman decisively called a stop. After a short break, Jim Carrey continued to step on the skateboard, and the camera moved to a more suitable position to participate in the filming. The Daydreamer, Scene 76, second shot, action. Facts have proved that Lyman's vision was not wrong. Since Jim Carrey joined the crew, his performance has made him very satisfied. Whether it is serious comedy or restrained seriousness, there is always a sense of petty citizenship, especially when fantasizing. The control of facial muscles makes people really think that he is immersed in fantasy. For his vision of casting, Lyman has to give himself a thumbs up. Even when Thomas was shooting on the set, Lyman began to deliberately let him observe more about this kind of shooting and see what benefits it would have on the lens design. He wanted Thomas to be able to shoot independently step by step. Chapter 382 Finale. Subscription recommendation. The filming of Daydreamer has entered the countdown. The actors have also left the crew one after another. As for the leading actress, Hilary Swank was the first to leave. Her scenes were concentrated in the town and the ending, and there were no scenes that required shooting on location. She completed her filming task on July 20th. Looking back on this time, Hilary Swank felt very fulfilled. She learned a lot. It also made her understand that comedy is not deliberately performed, but is a cleverly designed dialogue and body movements, a contrasting harmony. She had never been involved in this type of movie before, but now she has some experience. Moreover, she can get guidance from a first-class movie star in the comedy world, and the director also gives her advice. This made Hilary a little flattered. It is a very enjoyable thing to film with Lyman. She thought so. On August 7th, Hellboy was completely withdrawn from North America. After 5 weeks of screening, the domestic cumulative revenue was more than $53 million. The revenue in the first 2 weeks was higher than the sum of the next 3 weeks. As for the box office, it is not very impressive, but it has caused a little ripple in the circle. Hollywood, Paramount headquarters. Shirley Lansing took the market financial report compiled by the assistant and slowly flipped through it. Since the rise of the film industry in the United States, the domestic market has still accounted for the majority of operations, and it is far from the time to focus on developing overseas markets, China markets, in later generations. After all, due to the distribution channels, regions and local policies, the proportion of overseas box office profits is far less than that in China. To build a good relationship with overseas theaters, or even plunder the film market in other regions, you must pay something. Back to the United States. For these film companies, the competitive pressure is also the greatest. Since the new millennium, there are countless film companies that put up signs to grab the market every year. Throughout the year, thousands of films are fighting there, and how many have benefited? When DreamWorks was first established, it earned nearly $2 billion in China with more than 10 consecutive high-quality films, and instantly became the top of the second-tier production companies, and could reach the top of Hollywood with its hands. Animation, music, film, and television production, TV stations, distribution channels. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is in its heyday. But now, Shirley Lansing looked through the financial report and saw the name she didn't want to see again, Firefly Pictures. They only produced 3 independent films in Hollywood, but 1 sold well, and 2 sold well. Among them, Saw has developed into a series of films with great potential. How can such a result not surprise people? Shirley Lansing thought, is it another DreamWorks that is on the rise? There are hits every year, and they make money when they are released. It seems that Lyman was born to be a filmmaker. How long has he been a director? Less than 3 years. It's okay if the films he shoots can make money, but does he have the talent to direct? But starting a film company is not a one-man show, so how can he have such a good eye for people? It's okay for Gyro. He has some talent and has proven himself, but where did James Wan come from? In terms of return on investment and profit margin, only the powerful DreamWorks back then can compare. As the CEO of Paramount, Shirley Lansing originally wanted to acquire DreamWorks to improve her own hematopoietic ability and suppress Lyman's ambition. But now it seems that they are becoming more and more powerful, and Spielberg's resistance is also fierce. Needless to say, she is depressed, but she has to continue to maintain this very delicate cooperative relationship with Firefly Pictures. As a successful businessman, even if she is unhappy about certain things, she still puts commercial interests first. At present, Firefly Pictures can bring considerable profits to its partners, and it can also allow her Paramount Pictures to compete with other film companies for schedules. Therefore, not only can they not break up or suppress, but they must continue to deepen cooperation. It's like Firefly Pictures in Lyman's hands is a production factory, and Paramount has both sales channels and a production factory of its own. But the problem is that its own products are far from occupying all the market shares. Everyone is competing, and Firefly Pictures is a production company with potential. When the product scale is still small, it is dispensable. Naturally, it depends on the face of the seller and begs others to sell their products. And when Lyman's factory can produce substantial products and achieve considerable production benefits, the channel dealers in the market have to lower their posture. This is the current situation. Whoever wins over Firefly Pictures will be a good deal. Who wouldn't be tempted? But if the production company wants to upgrade to channel sales, the situation will be different. Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Bridges are crisscrossed, and canals are crisscrossed. The intoxicating tulips are the business card of this city. Streets near the city. Lyman is constantly gesticulating and dancing, and the translator is explaining the scene to several local Dutch groups according to his meaning. This is the last scene of the reshoot, and it is also the city that Walter Mitty passed by when he set out to find Scene the photographer. Speaking of which, Iceland is the location with the most scenes, but the scenes in the middle of the journey, such as the Australian National Park and Amsterdam, which only have 1 or 2 shots, are also shot on location. Okay, get ready. The Dreamers, Scene 52, first shot, action. Lyman stared at the shooting screen fed back from the director's monitor. On the leisurely streets, Jim Carrey, carrying a backpack and holding a map, walked and stopped to find his way. Passing a fork in the road, he politely asked several pedestrians for directions. The scenes in this movie are not very concentrated, but they are not tedious. Occasionally, it is quite pleasant to travel abroad while filming a movie, except that the journey is a bit tiring. And there are not many scenes to be filmed in Amsterdam, but it took 2.5 days to get it done with a group of people coming to the filming location. Because of the fear of accidents, 1 day was reserved for filming. No need to worry about missing the flight. It's done now. In addition to the joy of finishing the filming, Lyman also let the crew take a collective holiday. Have a good day in Amsterdam. That night, another wrap-up party was held. Everyone gathered together to release the physical and mental fatigue, and the way to release it was to drink. Director Lyman, Jim Carrey, the leading actor of this movie, raised his glass and clinked it with lemon. He felt very relaxed and a little empty. However, this emotion did not affect him too much. I hope there will be a chance to work together again. Jim Carrey raised his glass again. There will be a chance. Lyman smiled. Bang! A crisp collision sound was heard. The two drank another glass. Chapter 383 Gradually Rising. Subscription recommendation. After staying in Amsterdam for 1 more day, the crew of Daydreamer returned to Los Angeles. While Lyman was busy with post-production, Johnson's work also made a breakthrough. After more than 3 months of screening more than a dozen companies with North American distribution channels, a relatively safe and suitable target was selected. In mid-August in Los Angeles, the average outdoor temperature during the day can still be maintained at 27 degrees. In the editing room of Firefly Pictures, Thomas had just edited the shooting materials for most of the day. The moment he heard Lyman say that the work was over, Thomas immediately lay down on the sofa and took a rest. He stayed up half the night yesterday. Lyman didn't stay up late, but he was also very tired. The main reason was that his brain was exhausted. His eyes were always staring at the screen, which was not so comfortable. But this is a process that must be experienced. After shooting so many movies, I'm used to it. After all, it is post-production. If you want to release it early, you can't delay too much. Back to the office, flipping through the financial statements for a while. At this time, Johnson walked in. Lyman handed him a cigarette and asked, "How have you been doing recently?" Johnson blew out a few smoke rings, nodded, and said calmly, "Not bad. I finally found a distribution company that is not so troublesome and has a healthy internal management. Thank you for your hard work." Seeing that Johnson even had dark circles under his eyes and looked exhausted, he must have been working hard. "Fortunately, the better the company develops, the higher my salary will be." Johnson laughed and joked. In fact, his current agent job is getting more and more high-end. He rarely intervenes in CAA's internal business and has no intention of bringing in new people, except for Eva, who helps with the matter. Because of Lyman's relationship, he has basically tied up with Lyman's personal development. He even thought about leaving CAA and joining Firefly Pictures. Just like many senior agents who have reached the top, but cannot become partners of CAA and cannot get equity, they will develop in another circle. Many agents will choose to do this after they have made enough connections. After all, being only responsible for agent business is still too low end, and the upward space is blocked, so they can only jump out. Unfortunately, Lyman didn't mention it, so he didn't say anything. "Tell me about that company." Lyman waved his hand, watching his assistant pour 2 cups of coffee, and asked. Johnson took the briefcase, took out a thick document from it, and put it in front of Lyman. Lyman Vish Film Company. Founded in 1989, it was originally engaged in TV series production business, and later developed North American distribution channels. However, the film business has never taken off. They made a lot of money, but made little money. Later, they mainly distributed movies from other companies. Well, they couldn't compete with the 6 major and second-tier channel dealers. They mainly rely on the UK to buy relatively niche independent films in the UK and then release them in North America. The channels are relatively complete, and the business can only be considered average, but it can make money and is financially healthy. TV series are their biggest business. There are 2 shareholders, both British, and they have a good relationship with several TV stations. Are they willing to sell? Lyman was a little surprised. Johnson nodded, then shook his head. One of the 2 major shareholders has some ideas, and the other has been in contact, but it's hard to talk to. In addition, the management also has some shares. If you want to acquire the company in full, you have to deal with this part. How much does the management hold? About 8%, distributed among several people, scattered, all of which are share awards given slowly in recent years. Johnson blew out another smoke ring. Don't think it's a bit complicated, but if you want to get in, you can definitely get in. Moreover, this one is the most suitable one. Many distribution companies have many people standing behind them, and some are even involved in banks and foundations. Everyone is not short of money, and they all want channels. After Johnson's more detailed introduction, Lyman finally understood the internal situation of this company called Lyman Vish Films. One wanted to sell out and cash out about 40% of the shares, leaving 7%. The other didn't want to sell and even wanted to buy in a little. The management was watching the situation, wavering, and didn't say a definite word. The shareholder who wanted to sell, whose family was in the electronic processing business, had opened 2 small factories. Recently, He saw a well-developed plastic mold factory and wanted to acquire it to support his own business, but he didn't have that much money, so he wanted to cash out most of his shares and exchange some money to develop this side, but he didn't want to completely leave Vish Films. After all, the film company can also make money, and it's not bad to receive dividends every year. But Lemon only wants the North American distribution channel, and is not very interested in other miscellaneous businesses. But he will definitely not split it up. In addition, the establishment of channels for distribution requires a large number of experienced talents. After all, the theaters are there, and the famous theater chains across the country also have screening businesses. It's cooperation with anyone, and they won't leave the theaters empty without screening. Therefore, if a movie wants to be distributed, it needs to be negotiated one by one, and at least one distribution site must be established in each state. While contacting these theaters, it is also necessary to investigate their operating conditions, the audience base nearby, the number of films scheduled, and other data very clearly, and the work is very heavy. At this point, I'm sure you will understand. To establish a distribution channel, the important thing is not the cinema itself, but the need for so many experienced people who can understand the cinemas in each place and can greet the cinema. This is why Johnson emphasizes the management. If you want to smoothly carry out those businesses after taking them, the training of distribution personnel is the top priority. Otherwise, even if you acquire a distribution company, it will be a big trouble if the people under you run away. Thinking of this, Lemon smiled distressedly and then asked, if you can't acquire it in full, it will only give you a little more autonomy than cooperating with Paramount and other distribution companies, and the profit may not be worth the effort. That's true. The publicity resources of the 6 major companies are not comparable to those of Vish Film Company. But we can take over the offline market, which is a long-term plan. Johnson thought clearly. The DVD market is also a big market for revenue. It will definitely be good if we can get involved. But it is still different from what we expected. Then how about building it ourselves? Johnson made another suggestion. If we build it ourselves, we can rely on film companies such as Warner, Paramount, and even Lionsgate, and slowly operate the market. It will take 2 to 3 years to lay out the plan and cultivate distribution talents. That's what DreamWorks did in the beginning. Columbia and 20th Century Fox don't mind them taking the domestic market share. Chapter 384 Intervention. Subscription Recommendation. The importance of distribution channels to the film and television production industry is self-evident. For example, it is always possible to take away 1/3 or even half of the revenue of a movie with relatively low investment and relatively small risks. Anyone would be jealous. In the office, Lemon was still thinking, smoking silently. Johnson was talking in detail about the second way of establishment. Backed by several companies with channels, it is much better to build along their path than to start from scratch. Just like Lyman Vish Films, it took more than 4 years to understand the cinema resources and offline market across the country from scratch. If it were them, it would definitely not take that long. After listening for a while, Lemon suddenly said, if we win over the management and then enter the market, can we get the other shareholder out? It's a bit difficult. Johnson was stunned for a moment. Lemon said again, it seems that some strong support is needed. Johnson thought about it, and seeing that Lemon still wanted to acquire Lyman Vish Films, he kept silent. He felt that only half of the shares was better than the current situation. Otherwise, if you really want to build it yourself, the cost will definitely be less, but the time cost is too high, and it will involve a lot of energy. Lemon was still thinking about it. He had some plans in his mind, but he didn't want to tell anyone now. He stood up, tidied his clothes, and put out his cigarette, saying, let's go and have dinner. Hearing the word dinner, Johnson also nodded and followed Lemon out. At night, back to the mansion in Beverly Hills, Lemon sat quietly on the sofa alone. Eva received an endorsement and went to France to participate in the brand's promotional activities. As for him, since he came here, things have happened like a revolving wheel. I didn't expect that it would be such a situation that made him pause and carefully calculate. He has been envious of the channel for a long time. Nowadays, there are only 20 to 30 film companies on the market that can be distributed throughout the United States. Most of them don't have enough film sources and run to operate the offline market. After all, if you can't release a few movies throughout the year, the channel will be of little use. Perhaps you can start from this aspect. Lyman Films doesn't make much money from the channel. After a sleepless night, the next day was still hard work. In just 1 week, Thomas went from excitement to fatigue and complaints. Anyone who has watched the material dozens or hundreds of times will feel the same. Just watching is not enough. You will also think about how to edit it and watch it again after editing. Repeating this process, the re-editing is completed. There are more than 800 minutes of material in total, and after editing, there are still more than 120 minutes left. Next, you have to insert the appropriate soundtrack while continuing to edit. Delete some redundant shots to make the rhythm of the film more integrated. In addition, during this week, Johnson also had a certain influence on Lyman Films and Lemon's deliberate hype. For such a film company, shareholders wanting to sell their shares themselves is a source of internal disorder. Needless to say, the management is all considering what impact this matter will have. Will the new shareholders interfere in their work, and will there be changes in their positions? These are all things that are difficult to say. Johnson was also very cunning. While he was negotiating with people about the transfer of shares, he led the headhunting company to directly contact the management and test their ideas. He could use bribes, threats, or appeasement. In short, he would first give them a hint and explain his intentions. He also tried every means to pull the heads of various regions of the entire distribution channel. As time went by, the rumor that Firefly Pictures would acquire shares became more and more popular. This was of course also spread by Johnson according to Lemon's orders. During the negotiations, Lemon gave Johnson a certain degree of autonomy and a lot of funds to lobby the management. In the end, after a tug of war, the transfer of 40% of the shares would require $240 million to acquire it, based on the valuation of Lyman Pictures at $600 million. This amount of money is huge, and they do not accept non-liquid funds to pay it off, nor do they accept phased payments. Otherwise, another shareholder could have taken it over because he did not have so much cash in his hands, but he could not wait so long to buy the plastic mold factory. Regarding this acquisition, Joseph, the head of the administrative department, came to persuade him several times, saying that the company's development was a little urgent, and he was afraid that the foundation was unstable. Lemon comforted him with a smile, and he listened to his words, but he also did what he said. In the end, even his good friend Ryan came over to discuss, will there be some problems with spending money like this? Lemon looked at Ryan, but did not answer. Instead, he asked, Ryan, if the money is gone, and you need to borrow money from the bank, will you agree? Ryan said indignantly, what are you talking about? I will definitely support you all the time. Lemon smiled, patted Ryan on the shoulder, and breathed a sigh of relief. It's good that he didn't blame him. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Ryan still couldn't understand Lemon's thoughts. If he couldn't build a channel as soon as possible, Firefly Pictures would always be strangled by others, no matter how it developed. Moreover, there is an upper limit to film production, and I haven't heard of any film company that can be in a high position and gain more market share without any distribution channels. In this way, whether it is built earlier or later, there must be its own channels. After finally waiting for an opportunity to intervene, can you just watch it slip away? He was unwilling to start from scratch from the bottom of his heart. That would only be the worst choice. Unless he could not acquire a suitable distribution company, he would not take the last step and spend a lot of time and energy to train people who could adapt to the market. Moreover, he wanted more than just this. Let Johnson take over the shares to be sold first. With the right to speak, maybe Lyman Pictures would become the situation he wanted. Soon, Lemon's actions had some effect. Although many people were interested in the equity transaction, they had no choice but to contact Johnson earlier to test his intentions. If nothing unexpected happened, the final transaction should be won by Lemon. The management did not change sides immediately, but they also released goodwill. It is not realistic to expect a group of adults to be moved by words when the situation is unclear, but Lemon also wanted very little. In the event of a conflict, they could remain neutral and not favor any party. The focus of the company on the TV series business and the distribution business is also part of Lyman's calculation. Moreover, the other shareholder started his career in the TV drama industry. I believe that the management of the distribution department will make the right choice. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385 Pros and Cons. Subscription recommendation. Los Angeles, Burbank. Less than a few hundred meters away from the town's central square, business buildings are rising from the ground. The surrounding areas are almost all gathering areas related to the film and television industry. An office on the third floor of a building. There are 7 or 8 people sitting or standing. They are the management of Lyman Vish Films, but the atmosphere is a little silent at the moment. At this time, the door was suddenly knocked and pushed open. A middle-aged white man wearing glasses came in. His hair was a little sparse and his face was a little tired. After entering the door, seeing this situation, he also chose a seat and sat down without saying a word. His action attracted the attention of many people. Someone immediately asked, "How is it going? How is the negotiation?" The person who spoke was Michael Joy, the general manager of the Los Angeles area, who was responsible for the distribution of the entire area. The person who just came in was the second in command of this group, David Nathan. These 2 people can be regarded as supporting most of the management structure of Vish Films distribution channels. Other channel managers in areas such as Nevada, Ohio, Alaska, and Utah are not as good as those in California in terms of status or real market share. Furthermore, the establishment of the channel site was slowly and painstakingly perfected by these 2 people. Just based on this point, the 2 are also veterans. But it is easy to conquer the world, but it is difficult to keep it. Originally, each of them still had ambitions, and maybe the distribution department would override the highest position of all departments in the company, and the right to speak would increase greatly. However, the production department was not strong enough, and the film sector was slow to open up. As for the distribution department, without the support of achievements, many film companies were unwilling to take the risk of giving the project to Vish Pictures for distribution and operation. Soon, everyone could only eat the leftovers left in the market, one day at a time. When you want to do something, but can't do it, it becomes the current situation. Fortunately, there are new shareholders who are about to enter, which gives a group of people hope again. One of them looked at Michael Joy, who was silent, and then said, "Do you know the rumors outside? Acquisition? Yes, we are negotiating. I heard that the one who wants to buy is Firefly Pictures. They have been in the limelight this year. They have strong production capabilities, unlike us, who are stingy to make a movie and can't even take out 10 million. They gave it all to the TV series department." Someone complained. David Nathan also sighed. "Does our company have rich experience in TV series? The higher-ups are unwilling to take risks. Besides, we have failed several times and definitely don't have that much confidence. Who says making a movie will definitely succeed? If you don't want to take risks, why bother with distribution channels? Just cut the movie business in one fell swoop to save trouble. Don't say it." David Nathan rubbed his eyes, sat and thought for a while, absent-minded. There were signs of competition within the company early on. Since the improvement of the distribution channels, it has not brought the company enough expected returns, and resources have increasingly tilted towards the TV series department. Alas. Just when the distribution department was worried about the future direction, the company's 2 major shareholders were also in talks. This film company is the hard work of both of them. However, the former contributed more money and the latter contributed more effort. The former is named Austin Hunter. His family has a small fortune. He also wants to sell his shares in exchange for the upgrading of his own electronics factory. He is a businessman and his entry into the film industry is purely an investment behavior. The latter is called Charles Digg. Since his youth, he has been making a living in the film and television industry. He has worked as a handyman, a casting director, and a stage manager and crew manager. He has a good network of industry contacts. Later, He hooked up with Hunter and set up a small film and television company, specializing in contracting the production business of some TV stations and helping them shoot film and television dramas. Occasionally, he would also make his own independent production and sell it to TV stations for screening. Therefore, he is the real manager of this company. But at this moment, he only felt angry and angry. He felt that Hunter had betrayed their friendship. Hunter did not even discuss the sale of shares with him in advance, but spread the word outside. Basically, he was ignored. Although more than 90% of the funds spent by this film company in the early stage were supported by Hunter. Why didn't you tell me about the transfer and sale of shares? Charles suppressed his temper, but still had some coldness. I'm telling you, can you come up with the money? Hunter looked indifferent. The film industry is unexpectedly deep. 7 or 8 years have passed, but he still can't make a lot of money. Hunter has long lost his patience. In his opinion, it would be safer to return to the electronic manufacturing industry, which he is more familiar with. As for the money, Charles certainly can't come up with it. Although profits have been growing over the years, after deducting expenses and employee salaries, the annual profit is only around 30 or 40 million. He also needs to share some profits with Hunter and invest some. He also needs to maintain his personal life, houses, cars, etc. The maximum amount of savings in his hands is 20 million. Even if real estate is included, it is estimated to be 100 million. Not even half of it. The two talked coldly for a few words, and Hunter invited Johnson's negotiation team to meet again. Charles was left in the office and slammed his notebook on the table. He was really unhappy. Not only was he ignored. When Hunter was there, he rarely asked about the company's operations, but just kept an eye on the finances. This kind of situation of holding power may no longer exist in the future. How could Charles not be angry when a real knowledgeable person intervened? Vish Pictures started with TV series, and in the company, it was because he had always stuck to this area. As for movies and even distribution channels, they were developed after Hunter consulted some people's opinions and thought they could be developed. Now it's not working, and he wants to sell it. He also said that the market is not saturated enough and new markets should be developed. Think about it, they are all excuses. Charles is middle-aged, but his temper is not good. And this emotion in his heart is also based on a very clear helplessness. Hunter has the most shares, but he is so short-sighted that he only regards Vish Pictures as a tool for profit. Once he fails to meet expectations, he immediately changes camps. He is simply a pig teammate. As a result, Charles' prestige in the entire film company has continued to decline. Not to mention the panic within the company, even he himself can't keep his composure and can't see the way forward. Unfortunately, although he was angry, he didn't dare to really offend Hunter. He had to talk to him and try to save something. At this time, the assistant called the internal line. President, Mr. Lyman from Firefly Pictures is here to visit you. Who? Mr. Lyman last. FXXX. Chapter 386. Evil Guests. Subscription recommendation. In the spacious reception room, Lyman and Ryan waited for more than half an hour, but only got 2 cups of coffee. Excuse me, Mr. President is in a meeting. The man wanted to say something, but Lyman interrupted him and said, "It's okay, we'll just wait here for a while." "Okay then." The secretary replied apologetically. After the secretary left, Ryan complained dissatisfiedly, "These people don't seem to welcome us. What would you do if you were in the position of an unwelcome guest?" Lyman said calmly, "He should be in the company, just wanting to leave us alone, and we'll meet sooner or later." "Really? We are about to become the largest shareholder. Don't you think he's in a hurry?" As Lyman expected, Charles was also busy calling some executives in the circle to inquire about the internal situation of Firefly Pictures. After a while, the secretary came to report, "President, they're still waiting. Let them wait." Charles didn't even raise his head. Just as the secretary was about to leave, Charles suddenly asked, "What do you think of that Lyman? He's very generous." Another half an hour later, Lyman and Ryan were finally invited into Charles' office. This man is about 45 years old, not very tall, and a bit fat. Judging from his appearance, he doesn't have the temperament of a businessman, but looks very elegant as an intellectual. He has a warm smile on his face. Of course, this is just appearance. A person who can fight in the film and television industry for more than 10 years, create a film and television company, and develop it well must not be that simple. After the secretary brought the two in, he served coffee and left. Sorry, I was in a meeting just now, and delayed a little time. When they met for the first time, Charles still made excuses in a principled manner. No, you are in charge of such a large film and television company. I'm flattered that you can take time to meet me. Lemon was also smiling, and there was no trace of sarcasm in his eyes. But why is this so strange? Charles pretended not to hear it, and kindly asked the two to sit down. Lyman Vish's president's office exudes a sense of simplicity, and it can be seen that Charles is not a person who is greedy for enjoyment. Several people chatted politely for a while. Charles never brought up the topic of Vish films, just talking nonsense. Lemon didn't care, and just followed his words, thinking that he was really here to talk to someone. After more than 20 minutes, Charles finally spoke. Young man, I heard that you want to buy Hunter shares? Lemon didn't answer directly, but smiled. Vish Films has always focused on TV series. It has the North American distribution channels. Don't you want to boost the more profitable film market? Charles twitched his mouth corners, and after a long time, he still forced a smile. The company's next development goal is to maintain the film department. Oh, really? On the other side, Hunter was still communicating with the negotiation team led by Johnson. After several discussions, most of the conditions have been determined. In the meeting room, Hunter asked his lawyers to check the security of the contract and smiled. You made a good deal. Then why do you want to sell it? Even if you want to acquire the mold factory, a bank loan can solve a large amount of funds. Johnson asked with concern. Hunter did not hide it. He was planning to withdraw anyway. I don't know much about this. The cooperation with the TV station was also maintained by Charles. In recent years, he has been more and more eager to do things without me. Establishing a distribution channel was one of my coping measures, but unfortunately it failed. He shook his head. This is not so easy to play, and I can't play it well. Then why don't you sell the remaining 7% of the shares and exit cleanly? Johnson suggested, following the topic. It's not impossible, but keep it in mind. Hunter laughed. What difference does it make if you leave a little bit? Johnson asked in return. Seeing that the cooperation was about to be reached, Hunter advised, if you can't absolutely control the Lyman Vish pictures, it will be difficult for you to do things, even if you become the largest shareholder. At the beginning, I held 65% of the shares, but gradually my shareholding was reduced to 47%. Not because I couldn't get involved. You are in the film industry, why don't you continue to make movies? Johnson said with a smile. The financials are so healthy, and it is obviously a good asset. How can you lose money if you invest in it? It will definitely not lose money. Hunter shook his head. Then how much money are you prepared to pay for the 7% of my shares? Johnson said, calculated according to the market price valuation. After thinking for a while, Hunter did not insist. In fact, it didn't matter to him whether to keep this little bit or not. He had already made up his mind to sell all the shares in his hands. Even if he didn't encounter the sale of the mold factory, he would find a way to sell it. However, many interested parties could not afford the high price, and it was not so easy to meet a suitable buyer. Since they met, let them fight for this mess. After checking the contract, Johnson also represented Lemon to buy Hunter's 47% of Lyman Vish Film shares for $282 million US. At the same time, Hunter also promised to help Johnson and others contact some of the company's management. After that, he watched Johnson and others leave. Hunter said to his assistant, what do you think Lemon's idea is to enter the market? It's complimentary. Firefly Pictures has made more than $200 million a year by making movies. If it has a distribution channel and can maintain its original production capacity, it will be a good deal. The assistant analyzed. Yes, I thought I could rely on the distribution channel to drive the company's film department, but it was a beautiful dream. Until now, the profits from the distribution of movies are completely subsidizing the film department. What do you think of him? Hunter asked again. That's pretty impressive. He's gone through what many filmmakers would have done in their lifetime in just 3 years. Hunter also nodded, seeming to agree. Young people now rule the world. He reminds me of Steven Spielberg. They both have a talent for directing and great ambitions. But DreamWorks is no longer viable. Hunter smiled and said, you can't look at it that way. DreamWorks' current valuation is much higher than when it was first created. Even if those movie copyrights and production resources were acquired by someone else, Spielberg has not let down his years of hard work. It can only be said that he was unlucky and there was internal intrigue and disunity. The independence of the animation department alone has cost DreamWorks a lot. We'll see. Maybe he'll do better after leaving DreamWorks. Based on his past achievements, which company wouldn't want to win him over? Chapter 387 is coming. Please subscribe and recommend. At the end of August, some theaters replaced their posters with a familiar poster. Dark colors, mixed with some gothic weirdness. In a room similar to a basement, a corpse was hanging. Blood was flowing, gathering into a small pool on the ground. Incandescent lights flickered, and in the dark white, a silhouette of a masked figure loomed. In the mask, a pair of smiling, but calm eyes could be vaguely seen. In the upper left corner, it said Saw is back. In the middle of the poster, the name of director James Wan was bolded with a pen, and the black font was horizontal in front. The promotion plan for Saw 2 was completed with reference to the promotion of the first part. The focus is also Jigsaw and director James Wan, these two directions to attract the audience. Paramount decided to release it in early September, not in mid-October as expected. However, the schedules in September and October are similar, and neither is very popular. After confirming with the theaters, Paramount first launched the edited 4.5-minute trailer to the market. The TV station's feedback was good and the effect was okay. Movie fans who really paid attention to this news could see something in advance. For example, Jigsaw, who continued the wonderful killing mechanism of the previous film, punishes the world, and always likes to observe the prey closely. At the same time, Paramount also used its own resources in the circle to open a more frequent publicity channel. Los Angeles Daily News, San Francisco Evening News, Observer and a bunch of paper media began to promote the release. In addition, James Wan took the leading actors to participate in interviews and program promotions on TV stations, and basically all those who could get in went. Although Saw 2 is still a low-budget movie, there is no star actor in the team who can take the lead. From this point of view, the biggest star who has some appeal to the audience is the director himself. The most popular one in the Saw series is also the director himself. James Wan is happy, and even the subject of the media interview is him. After all, Saw is a good publicity hotspot with a small investment and an amazing return rate. Everyone likes to hear such a story, and this gimmick is not small. After acquiring Hunter's shares, Lyman did not make any new moves, except for trying to win over the management of the distribution department, or continuing to acquire some of the incentive shares held by the management. He did not come in and force others with his power as Charles thought. On the contrary, Lyman did not care about the right to speak for Usman-Vish Pictures and the prestige of the company. He returned to Firefly Pictures to continue the post-production of Daydreamer. Originally, after entering the market, Lyman was thinking about planning the next step, but he was not in a hurry. The time has not come yet. He worked hard to participate in the North American distribution channel, naturally not to share the benefits with others. As for Usman-Vish Pictures, the film business is not good at all. If he participates, and the movie becomes popular, wouldn't he and Charles reap the dividends of Firefly Pictures' strong production capabilities? That day, he negotiated with Charles, hoping to buy his shares at a high price, but he refused outright. In this case, there is nothing to talk about, so he won't talk about it. The film and television industry is so promising. Who doesn't want to stand higher and grab more market share? The richer the country, the greater the demand for spiritual food for the people. Think about it. This year, Cameron was still experimenting with his IMAX 3D technology. This year, Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft followed the development of the internet and their market value continued to rise. This year, on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, the mainland film market gradually soared, and in the future it will become the world's second largest box office. This year the torrent of the times rolled forward. And Lyman, who had a certain foundation, was no longer satisfied with this success. He hoped that in the future film industry, he would no longer be a foil to the big six. It is not so easy to achieve this step. During this period of time, the scattered ideas in my heart slowly twisted into a rope, and some specific development routes were slowly improved. However, since we have just started the distribution channel, we can only strive for greater market benefits after controlling the North American channel. So the first point is to deal with Lyman films. In the afternoon, when Johnson came to report, he said a little depressed, "Those people are still wavering. Not to mention acquiring equity, their perfunctory attitude is obvious. Distribution department, TV department. The equity is scattered among several executives in the TV department." Yes. Lyman was very calm. "Help me meet with Frank Gustav, the chairman of Lionsgate Films. The major shareholder behind Lionsgate is also a Canadian banker. Frank Gustav is very busy and travels around to check on businesses. As a successful investor and businessman, he saw the thriving film industry and squeezed in with great effort. But he rarely interferes with the management of the company. He has always believed that the right people should manage the right things and rarely intervene. In fact, his approach is very successful. Lionsgate is developing very fast in the hands of John Fellamy, a professional. However, one day he suddenly received a private call from the executive president. Someone made an appointment with him. A high-end club near Hollywood. The service and decoration are exquisite. As soon as Lyman opened the suite, he immediately felt a sense of luxury. Leather armchairs, glass and crystal coffee tables, and bookcases with intricate carvings. Further in, a slightly fat middle-aged white man sat on the sofa smoking a cigar. He heard the noise, looked at Lyman, and nodded slightly. In the room, just behind the middle-aged white man, stood a capable woman. She should be a secretary or assistant. No one greeted him, and he didn't care, and sat in front of the man. The middle-aged man was about 50 years old. He smiled and said, "Mr. Lyman is younger than I thought. It's just that we met at a good time. Mr. Frank is really admirable." Frank Gusta looked at Lyman with interest, and suddenly sighed. The era of people like us has passed. Lyman didn't answer, but said, "This time I invited Mr. Frank to meet, because I have something to discuss." "Oh, what is it?" "A little favor. Maybe it's something that Mr. Frank is interested in." For people like Frank Gusta, the accumulation of wealth, in many cases, money is just a string of numbers in their eyes, so it's not entirely true that they pay much attention to Lionsgate Films, which they invested in. But to say that they don't have any ideas, that's definitely true. Otherwise, he wouldn't agree to Lyman's appointment. Lyman, on the other hand, wants to invite Lionsgate to join the game and help him squeeze out Charles. Of course, he can pay some conditions. Chapter 388 Strong Support. Subscription Recommendation. The room suddenly became quiet. Frank Gustav curled up in the sofa, rubbing his hands, still thinking about the little request made by Lyman. Actually, it was nothing. Lyman meant to invite Lionsgate to join Lyman Films. On the surface, Lyman's party would transfer 5% of the shares. Privately, he would sign a letter of intent and buy it back at the original price when things were clear. It seemed that Lionsgate did not lose anything and even borrowed some strength and gained favors from Firefly Pictures. The question now is whether these two are worth it for Lionsgate to make a move. The quiet atmosphere did not last long. Frank said with some sighs, after listening to Mr. Lyman's ideas and seeing the prospects of Firefly Pictures today, I have to cite the importance of a successful director to the film industry. Lyman was a little stunned. Was he praising him? Just think of it as the goodwill released by the person opposite. Lyman thought for a moment and replied, "Nowadays, the film and television industry in many regions is showing an upward trend. If film companies want to develop, they can also rely on this aspect. Therefore, this further highlights the importance of channels. Channels, of course, also include overseas." Lyman knew that Lionsgate's future development route was probably to secretly explore overseas markets immediately after gaining a firm foothold in Hollywood, and spent 5 or 6 years to build their global distribution empire. Any film company that wants to climb high must take this path. This is the trend of market choice. However, his words still surprised Frank. First, the board of directors of Lionsgate decided to bypass the sight of the 6 majors, first contact the offline markets in various regions, and first develop DVDs and videotapes, and slowly surface Lionsgate's ambitions. Second, DreamWorks took this path, and was suppressed by the 6 majors. After facing the break of the capital chain, most of the second-tier film companies became honest, and in addition to Lionsgate, a newly developed Firefly Pictures also had such plans, which was surprising. Frank looked at Lyman, and felt that this person was not only good at making movies, but also very interesting. As for the conditions given by Lyman, the conditions for winning over. For example, if the 2 sides cooperate more closely, Firefly Pictures will hand over the subsequent Saw series to Lionsgate for operation, and it will not only be this project, but also help Lionsgate open up the TV series market. Frank had not fully considered these things at first, because he felt that letting a very promising film company grow and develop would definitely pose a threat to Lionsgate in the future. The cake is so big, whoever eats more will have to eat less. Although, on the surface, the 6 majors are eating crazily, but now it seems that they can help a little. After all, Lionsgate is in the lead, and how to go further is the focus of their consideration. Frank seemed to have thought of something, and said with a smile, "This step is very clever. I'm afraid it took a lot of thought." Lyman was revealed to be sincere, and he didn't feel embarrassed at all. Why not use it, if you can use it? Seeing Lyman's calm face, Frank found it even more interesting. It is a good thing for young people to have ideas and means. Maybe they can play a role in diverting the attention of the 6 major parties in the future. He looked at Lyman and suddenly said, "If you want to completely acquire Lyman-Vish Pictures, you need a loan, right? Firefly Pictures is short of money, so how about this? I will invest a sum of money and buy shares in Firefly Pictures. As for the price, you can talk about it. I will take whatever you give me." Frank had a very good first impression of Lyman. Thinking of his past achievements and the fact that he started from scratch, he wanted to extend an olive branch. Anyway, he has invested so much money in Lionsgate, and he must make a difference in the film industry. Investing in Firefly Pictures is also a good move. Unfortunately, he still refused. Although Lyman knew very well that once he accepted Frank's kindness, he would immediately obtain a large amount of resources. Not to mention that he would not lack funds. He would also have connections. Who are the people behind the banker? It can be said that the development of Firefly Pictures will take off at a high speed immediately. However, who would not want to look far and wide if he could do it again? If you think about it, you will only get deeper and deeper into trouble once you open this loophole. He definitely doesn't want to change the owner of the industry he has worked so hard to create. Moreover, since even Paramount and Warner have refused, and Lionsgate is allowed to come in, wouldn't that offend the other 2 companies? Will they still cooperate in the future? Lyman said sincerely. Lionsgate is also booming with the support of Mr. Frank. Firefly Pictures can't catch up, even if they flatter it. Besides, I'm used to making trouble myself, and I'm afraid that other people's good intentions will be in vain. How about this? If you are not sure about the loan, I can use the copyright of the movie and part of the shares as collateral. How about it? The words were very appropriate, praising Lionsgate Pictures and expressing his ideas very well. Although Frank felt a little regretful, he had the temperament of a big businessman and did not force him with a loan. After all, with the asset valuation of Firefly Pictures, it can be mortgaged in any big bank. Letting him do it is also a personal gesture of Lyman. He waved his hand, whispered a few words to the secretary, and then said to Lyman, "I agree to this. You can talk to John Fellamy, he will help you too." After that, Lyman knew it well. Before the meeting, Frank Gustav had not asked about everything, and had made some preparations. If Lyman's conditions were suitable, cooperation or help would be agreed, otherwise, just treat it as a relationship. As a result, Lyman's performance and efforts exceeded Frank's expectations. Since Lionsgate is willing to lend a hand, this is a good opportunity. Lyman did not hesitate, and then discussed with Frank's trusted lawyer. Frank did not care about this small business. It was purely to win an ally for the development of Lionsgate. It took an afternoon. 2 agreements were signed. First, the equity transaction of Lyman Vish Pictures gave Lionsgate a reason to enter the market. Second, the loan issue. If a full acquisition is really made, at least $400 million will be needed, and Firefly Pictures must keep 70 to 80 million on its books, and it cannot be withdrawn completely. In addition, there are investments in travel to New York, Saw 3 and Daydreamer, which add up to about $230 million. They have not been released, and cannot be repaid. Therefore, there are about $100 million in working capital left, and the intended loan is $350 million, using the existing film copyrights, a flying income, and about 36% of the equity as collateral. The term is 3 years. If the loan cannot be repaid within 3 years, these mortgaged assets will be recovered by the bank one after another. The matter is over, and Lyman breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 389 Policy, Subscription Recommendation. A few days later, when Lyman once again stepped into the door of Lyman Vish Pictures, he had become the company's largest shareholder. After transferring 5%, he still had 42% of the shares, which was still higher than Charles' 41.3%. Although, this title only sounded good. Ryan followed Lyman, and when the two of them got out of the elevator and went to the conference room, an executive was smiling and leading the way. "Mr. Lyman, Mr. Ryan, please follow me." Liam Hayden was only 39 years old, but he was an old man in the company. He became the vice president of the film department 6 years ago. Lyman pushed the door open and entered. There were already 2 middle-aged white men sitting in the conference room. Liam Hayden introduced, "Mr. Lyman, this is Keller, the general manager of the TV department, and this is Julian, the deputy general manager of the TV department." Lyman had read the internal information of Lyman Vish Pictures and knew that these two were talents promoted by Charles and had worked in a British TV station before, and both of them held dry shares. After shaking hands and greeting the two executives, it didn't take long for the management of the distribution department, marketing department and other departments to arrive. However, in the end, there was no sign of Charles. According to his assistant, he went to discuss the production of new projects with several TV stations that he had cooperated with early in the morning. Of course, even if he didn't come, the meeting had to be held, because John Felmer even sent his deputy to take charge. The acquisition plan can also enter the second stage. As for the high-level meeting held temporarily today, in addition to Lyman's appearance as the first shareholder of Lyman Vish Pictures, their joining will also promote the development of the entire company. After the management of various departments arrived, Charles' assistant quietly left the meeting room and went directly to Charles's office as president. The boss is in the company, but he doesn't want to show up. One is to avoid the limelight temporarily, and the other is to see what the new Lyman wants to do. The failure of the competition for equity does not mean that he really wants to share most of the power in his hands. Lyman Vish Pictures has now reached a delicate balance. The most powerful and profitable TV and marketing departments in the company all belong to Charles's faction, while a small number of powerful management members belong to Hunter's faction, and the situation is not good. If Charles does not cooperate, many tasks will definitely not be carried out. He also wants this method to make the newcomers such as Lyman face the reality and honestly be a behind-the-scenes supporter, just like Hunter before. Try to interfere with the company as little as possible. After the president's assistant entered Charles' office, he reported honestly, "Boss, I have already greeted them. I believe no one dares not to listen to you." Charles sneered, "This company has developed step by step in my hands. How can I let others mess around?" The assistant echoed, "Yes, Hunter wanted to establish a distribution channel and support the film department, but he didn't succeed." Charles is indeed very confident. If Lyman insists on seizing power, at least half of the employees from the bottom to the top of the company will stand up to resist. At that time, the loss will be huge, and he will have to end it. In the meeting room, Lyman tried his best to suppress his anger. Except for a few managers who had come up, most of the other executives were clearly trying to get by. From the beginning of the meeting, they nodded like crazy, but when it came to practical matters, they pretended to be deaf and dumb and couldn't say a word for a long time. However, Lyman was too lazy to deal with them. After saying a few words about the company's key development projects, he immediately announced the dissolution of the meeting. Then, Lyman took Lyman and others who came up to him and went outside. Several people went downstairs side by side, causing many uninformed employees to talk about it. They thought that the investment of Firefly Pictures would definitely help the company's film department. At that time, the better the company's profits, the richer the bonuses and so on. Unfortunately, Lyman never thought of doing this. It would be better to win over these experienced management talents first, and then acquire Lyman Pictures, directly cut off the film sector, and transfer suitable employees to Firefly. As for how he intervened, but he vigorously developed channels and even filmed TV series. In short, we will implement a policy, mess up the company, force Charles to sell his shares, or bring him to invest money together, and see who can't hold on. At the beginning, this guy was able to eat up a small part of Hunter's shares from the management shares at the beginning, relying on continuous investment and income to slowly increase his voice. It's a pity that Lyman Pictures is not listed, otherwise it wouldn't be so troublesome. Otherwise, just increase the holdings of this piece. You can suppress Charles and gradually dilute his shares. Several people found a place to sit down. Lyman said, there is not much liquidity in the company, let's see if they can hold on. Do we really want to continue to deepen the channel? That will require a lot of investment. Lyman suggested carefully. Why not? With the support of Lyon's gut, are you still afraid of the instability of the channel? If this area has not been improved, I want to intervene in the overseas market. Lyman didn't care. Lyman added, I guess there's already a quarrel in the company, and Charles is definitely not willing to invest in channels or anything else. It's better to make him unwilling. I want to acquire his shares. He knows it. Lyman analyzed. He is a businessman. He will definitely take the opportunity to raise the price and wait for you to offer a higher price. No, he won't give up. Lyman didn't continue to discuss this matter, but asked, which aspect of the company is most likely to hit Charles now? The TV department. Lyman said seriously, his relationship with those TV stations is what he values most, and this is also the company's most valuable asset. In fact, this is also where Hunter failed. He has no access to the TV department, and no relationship with the TV stations. Taking a step back, he may not be able to make a good TV series, let alone how to make a suitable project. If Lyman can put pressure on the TV station, Charles' past achievements are not worth mentioning. Without the support of the TV station, Charles can't come up with excellent and creative TV programs. After filming, you have to sell it. This is the key. Lyman had a plan in mind. He told Lyman, who was not valued and was a senior executive of Hunter, I hope you can appease the key talents in the distribution channels and film departments, and don't let them leave for other places. Charles will definitely not insist in a few months at most. By then, I will respect your opinions as much as possible and integrate resources to develop movies. Their job changes will definitely be much better than they are now. Chapter 390 Television Market. Although Warner Bros. Is unrivaled in the film industry and has always been the #1 in market share, it has not been affected by this strength in the field of television stations. It can even be said to be a younger brother and has been losing money for years. The reason is that there are not enough strong TV programs. If the audience cannot be retained, the ratings will be low. If the ratings are low, the advertising time cannot be sold, which leads to insufficient production funds and the need for funding from the parent company. Then, it repeats like this. It has always been going downhill. If it were not for the fact that the entire strategic resources can play a certain role in a media group like Warner Bros., it would have been cut off long ago. In fact, WBTV was indeed abandoned by Warner Bros. In 2006, and instead cooperated with NBC TV to establish a new TV station CW. It was also at that time that it slowly gained a certain market share with the support of NBC. The prices that a lot of shares of CW TV network fell into the hands of NBC. Of course, WBTV is still gritting its teeth to support it now. In the United States, TV stations are divided into two categories: public stations and cable stations. Public TV stations include CBS, ABC, Fox, NBC, WB, and PBS. PBS is a non-profit national broadcasting station, and the remaining 5 are commercial TV stations that make profits by selling advertisements and TV series discs. Cable TV is also called pay TV channel. As the name suggests, you need to pay to watch it. It includes basic channels and premium channels. The difference between the two lies in content control. Basic channels are almost equivalent to PG-13 in the movie rating, and premium channels are R-rated. For example, the yellow, violent, and dirty HBO is a premium channel. The main sources of income for all cable TV stations are subscription fees and selling TV series discs. Premium channels do not contain any advertisements, and basic channels such as AMC will still insert a small amount of advertisements. But that being said, the situation of skirting the rules is very serious in the television industry. WBTV station. Director Andrew Hernandez is working. He is 52 years old and has rich experience in the industry. He has worked here for more than 10 years and climbed to the top step by step. Of course, he was promoted to this position, not only because of his qualifications and age, but also because 3 directors were replaced in 5 years. Those above him were forced to resign, and it was his turn. As a senior executive of Warner Group, and one of the 5 major public television stations with more than 1,000 employees, the power in Andrew's hands is only possessed by a few people in the entire film and television industry. No one can help but indulge in this authority. This kind of status is like an ant that has tasted honey. It is hard to bear to give it up after getting it. Andrew didn't want to give up, but he tried every way in the 6 months since he took office, and WBTV still looked half dead. Except for the news program, there was nothing to show. In other words, the primetime and noontime slots in the evening had nothing to do with WBTV. It watched other TV stations compete for ratings and win the favor of major advertisers. Regardless of how much he contributed to this TV station, whether he was capable or not, and how much the board of directors trusted him, he had no advantage over the previous 3 directors in the ever-slowing market performance. Perhaps he would also leave. I just don't know which day it will be, whether I can last for a year or 2. The longest one seems to have stayed for only a year and a half. The autumn in New York is still very cool, neither hot nor cold, which is the best time to travel. The breeze with a little warmth blew into the wide, towering buildings, but it inexplicably became unpleasant. In the luxuriously decorated office, through the large floor-to-ceiling windows, you can overlook half of the prosperity of the East District of New York. Looking up from his busy official business, Andrew heard the movement outside the door and turned back a little irritably. "What's the matter? President, Mr. Berry Meir is here," the slightly younger female secretary replied. "Why didn't you notify me in advance?" Andrew blamed, but his hands did not stop. He signed another document and then went to the elevator to greet him. In terms of status, he didn't have any achievements, so he really didn't dare to act in front of the group's executives. If he was unhappy and proposed to change the board of directors, he would probably be finished. When they got on the elevator, the two exchanged a few pleasantries and shook hands politely. Today, Berry Meir is still so calm, as if the failure of Catwoman has not caused any impact at all. The smile on the corner of his mouth is not completely hypocritical. At the meeting the day before yesterday, the filming of the new Batman is still progressing steadily. Since the unfortunate failure 10 years ago, there has been no more. Andrew said good things, and never mentioned that Warner Pictures' 2 summer blockbusters did not achieve the expected results. Nolan's management skills are still good. Lyman recommended him, and he did not make a mistake. If the performance of the release is also this strong, it would be the best. Berry Meir's sighing tone is not false. One's own family knows one's own business. The development of DC superhero movies has not really made a good start. Andrew was a little surprised and muttered in his heart. He still remembered that in the second half of last year, when Berry Meir joined the DC department to determine the DC plan, he was in high spirits. Now it seems that he is not so strong. People will change. Think about himself. Hasn't he fallen to such a field now? Fortunately, when he first took office, he was eager to create something. If he had known it would be so difficult, he would never have taken over the mess of the TV station. Wouldn't it be better for him to be a good deputy? At least, he wouldn't have to bear such a heavy responsibility. The two walked towards the office, and Andrew asked, "When will the filming of Batman be completed?" "It will take about 4 months. Berry Meir chatted. "The more prepared the crew is, the smoother the filming will be." and the actors are all working out and rehearsing their parts. Are you optimistic about this project? Andrew asked. Well, the funds are not from Warner anyway. Berry sighed. Back then, the board of directors had some doubts about why the profits were shared with others, but after several productions failed, there is no voice now. To be honest, if Firefly had not provided the budget for the filming, perhaps there would be more trouble with this project. Withdraw investment? Some people have questioned whether to continue filming. If it fails again, it will not be so easy to continue the DC adaptation plan. Warner is now experiencing some discordant voices internally due to the bad start. Although Warner is a big company, it has the most stringent risk estimation and control, and it is not easy to take risks. Unlike 20th Century Fox, it always jumps left and right when the capital chain is broken. For example, The Big Ship was halfway through filming, and it wooed Paramount to continue filming. If it was Warner, Cameron would have dared to jump like this, and would have changed the director long ago. Well, Superman Returns changed 4 directors, and the script was overturned countless times. Besides, with such a large family in business, there are only so many top positions. After sitting in the position for a long time, there will always be new ideas. The existence of the board of directors also makes Warner Brothers less one-sided, which hinders the promotion of others. How can anyone not resent it? However, these are all trivial matters. Barry Mayer has gone through struggles that are far more dangerous than this situation, but it is nothing. The two chatted for a few more sentences. Andrew asked again, "What's the matter with you coming here today? A cooperation intention? Who? Firefly Pictures. Don't they make movies? I haven't seen them make TV shows. As for TV shows, how are the ratings?" Barry Mayer asked back. Andrew was silent. This is really a sad thing. If they had a popular series, he wouldn't be so worried. Andrew sighed. Can they do it? Give it a try. Anyway, there wasn't much response after the pilot episodes, so just cut it. Barry Mayer consoled him. If Lyman is in charge, the chances of success are still high. I've seen him come this far, and he hasn't failed once. He has a good eye for people, and several actors have found a second life in his hands. CAA has benefited a lot. Lyman is talented, and he's also willing to make concessions. He doesn't mind gains and losses. What's rare is that he knows his position clearly and never asks for too much. It's always a win-win situation to work with him. I hope there will be a good result. Andrew was convinced. In other words, how bad can it be? Anyway, WBTV is at the bottom of the list. I'll have a good talk with him. Chapter 391 Television Market. Second. When I was young, I thought that television was a conspiracy. Television stations work together to make everyone stupider. Later, I found that this idea was wrong. It was not the fault of the television stations at all. It was the result of the audience's own choice. Steve Jobs. Although Jobs said this in a joking manner during the interview. But it is enough to prove that television stations are absolutely the most dedicated in catering to the joys, sorrows, anger, and happiness of the audience. This is even more true for TV series. Because they are broadcast weekly, the decision of whether they can survive is completely in the hands of the audience. If there are people watching, and they meet expectations, they can finish a season and even have a renewal season. If no one watches, they basically cannot survive more than 3 episodes. The pilot system is a feature of American TV series. Television stations spend a lot of meaningless money on this every year. Every time a project is cut, it means that the TV station will lose a sum of money to purchase the copyright for broadcasting. Because in the United States, first the TV station takes a fancy to the project and pays the advance payment, and then the American TV series will start filming, shoot 2 or 3 episodes, and then sell it to the one who paid the money to see if the prospect of release is worth continuing. But TV stations are not always willing to buy projects, which requires the connections of various production companies. Some powerful gold medal producers are well aware of the needs of major TV stations and the preferences of their supervisors. They can pull out a team and turn stones into gold, even if they don't have good subject ideas. For example, Baumgartner, who is very famous in the circle, is an example. He has connections with the media groups behind major TV stations. As long as the ideas he sells can basically be filmed and broadcast. There is no one who does not give him a chance to try the water. Charles also took this path. Lyman-Vish films often relied on contracting part of the series to make profits. In addition, TV series are longer. Therefore, TV series pay much attention to the plot and have greater requirements for screenwriters. It is no exaggeration to say that screenwriters who are absolutely weak in the film industry have achieved a great improvement in their status in American TV series. Most of the main writers of American TV series are equivalent to production directors. The life and death of a character and even the direction of the plot are basically rushed out by the screenwriters in a very short period of time, and then the main writer decides whether to hire them. A more well-known joke in the circle is that there are endless examples of actors being killed by screenwriters because they are disobedient or their salaries increase too much. Therefore, as an actor, if you are in the TV circle, it is best not to offend the screenwriter too much. The script library of WBTV. Lyman brought Thomas and Ryan and sent several employees from the screenwriter department. Well, Nolan's brother Jonathan, after finishing the script of Batman, joined Firefly Pictures and was temporarily responsible for the screenwriter. Several people stayed here for most of the day, screening scripts. Every year, even if WBTV is not so strong, it will receive a huge number of project ideas. After all, opportunities are limited. All TV stations combined can only broadcast a few TV series in a year. Compared with the huge number of screenwriters, the competition is even more fierce. Therefore, everyone with an idea will submit the creative script to NTV stations. Anyway, they have collected the intellectual property protection in the relevant departments. If someone really plagiarizes the results and takes them to court, it will be very troublesome. TV stations basically don't do this. The huge collection room, every wooden cabinet is filled with scripts. Some of them that have not been cleaned up can even be traced back to several years ago. In his busy schedule, Lyman also had to answer questions about the script when he had some free time. For example, if someone was optimistic about a script, Lyman would review it again, but he rejected all of them. The reasons he used were basically that the story was too old-fashioned, the setting was not novel, the subject matter was not outstanding, or the cost of shooting was too different from the expected market, and the risk was too high. Everyone was grumbling about these opinions. He said he came here to select scripts, but he didn't like any of them. However, Lyman didn't explain much, and he focused on selecting scripts. In fact, he came here this time just to see if there was any overlap in creativity, so as to avoid embarrassment in the future. After all, he basically knew the TV series that would be popular in the future. What if he could make one out of them? If it collided with a script independently created by a screenwriter, it would be embarrassing. Of course, other people didn't know about Lyman's little thoughts, and they really tried hard to select scripts with their own eyes. After all, Lyman only mentioned the range of themes, saying that he wanted to shoot a drama about prison escape. However, this kind of theme is almost impossible to find, and there are very few that even touch on the edge. After all, the hottest genres on the market right now are family comedies, mystery dramas, crime dramas, and the like, and screenwriters focus on these genres. Jonathan still found it strange that Lyman turned a blind eye to other genres. When he saw a decent script for the third time, and it was rejected for almost the same reason, he asked in surprise. In fact, the theme of Prison Break is not as popular as that of crime dramas. The Sopranos has been filmed to its 5th season, and has won an Emmy Award. Well, The Wire and CSI, Crime Scene Investigation are both targeting similar markets, and they have all been successful. In any case, it is not wise to not cater to the market audience, but to tirelessly pursue genres that sound very niche. Even The Shawshank Redemption, which is amazing, was a loss after it was filmed. This has all been proven by the market. There are too many homogeneous things. Lyman was concentrating on reading the script. He looked up in surprise, even more than Jonathan. Even if we shoot something similar, it will be squeezed by the TV series itself. This is not what I want to see. Why? If it were you, it shouldn't be difficult to shoot something new. Jonathan shook his head and sighed. Speaking of which, Bad Guys is still the highest grossing movie of its kind. He guessed that this was the reason why Lyman didn't want to follow the old path. The same was true for movies, changing one theme after another. He didn't expect that the same would be true for TV series. Lyman licked his lips. His brother went to make a movie, and Jonathan was in the mood to make fun of himself after he was free. But what Lyman wanted was not just a high-level ratings, but a hit, at least a popular drama, the kind that ranks high. If Charles is not suppressed all at once and all his extra ideas are not eliminated, I don't know how long the equity acquisition will be delayed. Although Charles is very dissatisfied with him now, it is not enough. The basic base has not been broken, and this guy still seems to be fearless. This won't do. The reading continued. It took 2 full days for Lyman to finally confirm that there would be no collision. In fact, it seems that the idea of this drama was just a sudden idea put together by a producer, and he never thought that it could be filmed for so many seasons. The ending is very bad. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392 Television Market, Part 3. Crackle, crackle. At night, it began to rain heavily outside. The wind blew, and the big house seemed particularly empty. Lyman sat on a chair in the study, writing furiously. For this new drama, he was still responsible for finalizing the outline and characters first, and then handed it over to Jonathan and other people in the screenwriter department to fill in the details and enrich the plot. Speaking of Prison Break, he had also watched it in his previous life. He watched it with the goal of absorbing the strengths of foreign film and television dramas. In other words, he had just entered society and was more attracted to this kind of novel subject matter when domestic TV dramas were still stuck in the annual My Fair Princess. Let's talk about the plot. In fact, it is not complicated. There is only one main line, just like the title of the drama, Prison Break. So after a group of criminals work together to escape, the story seemed cliched. Obviously, the chief screenwriter never thought of shooting so many seasons. It was nothing more than too good a result, so he made up some plots to make money. But Lyman never thought of doing this. It is very normal for American TV series to have a bad ending, because at the beginning, no one thought about how far they could shoot. They just took one step at a time and continued if the results were good, until the series that originally had a good reputation collapsed. What he meant was to set it directly to only 3 seasons. One season has 12 episodes. Set a good scope and have a beginning and an end. In this way, the direction of the story is easier to grasp. For example, 1.5 seasons tell the story of prison, and 1.5 seasons tell the story after escaping. It is also necessary to set that most of the fugitives are caught, except for the protagonists who use some cleverness to take root in Mexico and are not caught. Lyman hopes that this drama can be included in the list of fine works to lay the best foundation for his own TV series department and put up the signboard. This is a very symbolic attempt. After completing the outline and handing over the remaining tasks to Jonathan's screenwriter department, the preliminary preparations began. Lyman also held a small meeting for this. In fact, it is to assign tasks. A TV series group formed by the production department of Firefly Pictures. Executive producer, Lyman. Directors, Gyro, James Wan, and even Leigh Whannell. American TV series are rarely directed by one director. Most of them are directed by one person for a few episodes. The style of the episodes is consistent with the style of the script. That means, follow the script, and don't mess around. Chief photographer, Thomas. Script writer, Jonathan Nolan. Lyman raised his voice and ordered, "Let me tell you about our work. The script is still being written. This is the work of the screenwriter department. Then I will look for suitable actors and confirm the schedule. Thomas will go to scout the location and find a suitable prison exterior. We need to find an abandoned building that was once used as a prison. After finding it, we will start to renovate it. The approximate cost limit is about 10 million. Then there is the interior of the studio. We will still rent Warner's studio to shoot. Remember to communicate The budget for the scattered shooting costs is about 20 million. The meeting was not long, just to establish a general direction. After the meeting, everyone took action soon. For the production department, this year's several projects, except for Batman, are mostly completed, and the company has sufficient manpower for filming. Without much delay, the preliminary design and manufacturing of props, costumes, etc. began. Later, the news spread in the circle. Immediately, Kevin Hoween of CAA came impatiently. He came with a mission. He wanted to provide actor packaging services for the TV series. The agency, with so many resources, certainly does not want to miss every opportunity to cash in. The actors are popular, and they earn a lot. According to the agreed terms, most of the minor roles were almost booked by CAA. Lemon doesn't care who chooses the warden, police officer, prisoner and other roles that don't have much screen time. As long as it's suitable, it's fine. He has been working with CAA for so many years, and everyone still cooperates well in this regard. As for the protagonists and supporting roles, they can't be chosen casually. In addition to asking CAA to provide a list of actors, Lemon did not give in too much. William Morris, ICM, WMA, BEP, almost all the agencies that can speak to Hollywood, Lemon asked them to select a list of actors. As for selecting actors, Lemon had watched the original version and had a good idea in mind. The assistant walked into Charles' office with a cup of coffee. He said, "There is a lot of activity over there. It's okay. TV series are not something that can be handled casually." Charles was very confident and unwilling to give up power. He had to personally inquire about many things in the TV department. At this moment, he said, "I talked to FX, a TV station under 20th Century Fox, a few days ago. A new project has already been planned, called Middle Aged. It is a situation comedy. Several episode writers of Friends were found as the main writers, and Andy Como was invited to play the role. I listened to their ideas and felt that it is very likely to succeed, so everyone was prepared." Friends premiered on NBC in September 1994 and ended in May this year. In the past 10 years, the ratings of all 10 seasons have been ranked in the top 10 of the year. Its status is quite high, and it has also driven the popularity of sitcoms around the world. Why would WBTV support him? Charles was a little disdainful. "What's the use of support? There is no comparison between FX and WB. Besides, the ratings still depend on the content of the program. FX is the best among them." The platform itself is also the reason why Charles is confident. Although he thinks that Lemon must have made some preparations, he has been on guard against what he wants to do. But he didn't expect that he would start with the TV production that he is most familiar with. There is nothing to be afraid of in this regard. Charles glanced at the news of the new drama released by WBTV in the new newspapers, and a fierce look flashed in his eyes. He attaches great importance to the right to speak of his own Lyman films. If Middle-Aged Man can surpass Prison Break in terms of ratings, it will undoubtedly hit Lemon's morale hard. It also makes that person dare not be so unscrupulous, causing unrest in the company. Nowadays, the internal disputes are becoming more and more obvious. Even his TV department is a little uneasy. With the pressure of Lionsgate and Firefly Pictures, it is easy for people to make a choice. If he is left alone, he will undoubtedly leave in disgrace like Hunter. He has spent so many years to build up the company and let the company gain a firm foothold in the film and television industry. He is not here to let others steal the fruits of victory. No matter what, he will not surrender. Just wait and see. Lemon. Chapter 393 Television Market. 4th. A week later. It was sunny again early in the morning. After 2 or 3 days of rain, Los Angeles finally became sunny again. Lemon walked into Firefly Pictures, listened to the greetings of the passing employees, and nodded in response from time to time. Entering the conference room, the relevant personnel gathered again. Lemon raised his hand, and Jonathan introduced the progress of the work first. After our department's joint arrangement, the tone of the script has been established according to the outline. It consists of 3 parts: imprisonment, release from prison, and hiding. The content length will be controlled in 3 seasons, and the plot of the first season has been successfully completed. Then it was Thomas. He also reported briefly. The location was selected in a 19th century prison in Illinois that was no longer in use. It once held the notorious serial killer John Wayne. Later, due to the lax management of the prison, prisoners often raped, forcing the state government to transfer criminals, and gradually fell into decline. After negotiating with the state government, they were willing to provide it to the crew for use. The prison had been out of use for a long time, and could generate additional income, so they agreed quickly. Then there are costumes, props and the like. Because it is a modern drama, it is very easy to prepare. For example, the prison uniforms. Warner Studios has a lot of them. After pushing forward several things in a row, Lyman finally said, "For this prison break, my bottom line is that it cannot make a profit, but the momentum and reputation must be sufficient. Even if it loses money, as long as it can get good ratings, it is worth it." In addition, the marketing department. Yes, Ryan, you can go and get sponsorship. Then, Thomas, you and I will receive the actors who auditioned. Nowadays, the average production cost of American dramas is not high. It is not like the investment budget of hundreds of millions in later generations, and most of the money is spent on the salaries of the actors. For example, the acting salary of the leading actors in Friends has risen to about 20 million. Jennifer Aniston received a basic salary of about 25 million in the latest season. But when the first season was filmed, including the publicity and promotion, the total cost was less than 8 million. For new dramas like this, excluding the actor expenses, each episode can basically exceed 1 million. For example, 10 episodes, which is a very luxurious production. Unlike movies, TV series have a high labor cost. Many behind-the-scenes teams are staffed by veterans, and the average salary is not high, and it is paid in stages. The average production cost of Prison Break is more than 1.8 million per episode, which is almost twice the normal production cost of TV series on the market. The previous version was a scam. After the opening and ending credits, the content of one episode was more than half an hour, and the plot was very long-winded. Lyman planned to make one episode about 1 hour. Normally, 22 episodes are compressed into 12 episodes. This is more refined, and the effect of shooting with a lot of money is naturally better. Los Angeles subway station. As soon as a station opened, a large group of people rushed out, among which a tall and thin young man with a delicate appearance was particularly conspicuous in the crowd. This person is Wentworth Miller. He is 32 years old, but looks like a guy in his 20s. He is a small actor, and is currently unemployed. He works as a handyman in a theater in Kansas. Think about it, how could he, who had studied English literature at Preston University, end up like this? Things are unpredictable. He thought his dream of becoming an actor was about to be shattered, but William Morris, the agency that had not helped him much since he joined, called him and said he was going to audition in Hollywood. He touched the Franklin in his bag and thought, if he didn't get the role, the round-trip ticket money would cost him half of his salary, and he was on sick leave. He was afraid that he would not be chosen again, and would lose it when he returned to work. He got in a taxi and followed the address given by the agency. About 10 minutes later, he arrived at Firefly Pictures. He explained his purpose and was taken to the 3rd floor. After getting out of the elevator, he saw a long corridor with compartments on both sides and people coming in and out. "President, the person is here." "Yes." "In the reception room." After the receptionist brought the person in, she said hello and went downstairs. Wentworth Miller was left standing at the door alone. So he raised his chest and head to give a good impression. The room was very simple, with a person sitting behind a table. It was the one who just responded. Lyman took the actor's resume and compared it. Sure enough, there was nothing wrong. "Mishui, where are you running to?" "Haha, just a joke." This guy became famous because of Prison Break. Lyman chose to shoot this drama, and his preconceived impression was also this guy. And this guy is really miserable. If Lyman hadn't looked through the list of male actors over 25 years old in major brokerage companies, he probably wouldn't have found him. He was the kind that William Morris assessed as having no training value. Later, he came out publicly. He is handsome, but he is old, and can't follow the path of a young and handsome guy. In addition, he is very delicate, so he can't play many roles. Although his temperament and appearance are still outstanding, when he was younger, he didn't become popular after acting in a few dramas, so he was left to fend for himself. In this way, his price is quite cheap. It is estimated that his salary for one season is $100,000, which is above the standard market. Maybe he can get it for $50,000 or $60,000 by deducting a little. After all, it is a performance opportunity, and he is the protagonist. Many small actors dare to agree without even asking for salary. Unfortunately, Lemon still can't be so black-hearted. To be honest, filming is still a bit hard. Moreover, after all, there is already a plan to shoot a sequel, so it is the best way to let the main actors sign a long-term contract and give them more basic salary. Otherwise, when it becomes popular, the salary is too low, and it is not easy to lower the price. Lemon looked at it for a while and asked, wait, 150. If you lose weight, can you gain muscle? Yes. Then this way. Lemon took out a script from the drawer and handed it over. Take a look at the role first. If there is no problem, let your agent come to discuss the signing. Wentworth Miller was stunned and didn't move. What? Is there anything else? Did I pass? Miller was a little confused. When did audition become so easy? Well, your qualifications are very suitable for the role. Besides, the role given to you is not difficult to play. Go back and think about it carefully. Remember not to leak the script. You know, the industry rules. Also, remember to exercise and build muscle. Lemon reminded him carefully. Listening to this, the guy's eyes lit up immediately. He smiled and nodded in thanks. Oh, how great I'm for teaching people to fish. Give myself a thumbs up. Lemon thought so. Then, after Miller went out, Thomas also came in with a few girls and said, I brought everyone to you. Chapter 394 Television Market. V. The original female lead of Prison Break was called Sarah Wayne Callies. She was a troublemaker. During the filming, she did not get along well with the crew. After the first season was broadcast, she forced FX TV to give in on the grounds of salary increase. The original version was broadcast on Fox TV in 2006. During the filming of the third season, she was suspended due to an unexpected pregnancy. The crew had to spend a lot of time on the suspension, causing huge losses. In order to film smoothly, the screenwriters had to write the female lead she played to death. Once the plot of killing the female lead came out, the ratings of the TV series dropped a lot. Many viewers could not stand this seemingly stupid plot. Even now. Therefore, even with the impression of the original version, Lemon did see Sarah's personal information at the ICM agency, but did not invite her to audition. Instead, he asked Thomas to select a few outstanding young actresses. There were only two conditions. One was that she had acting experience, but was not very famous. The other was that she was willing to sign a long-term contract. For such a small requirement, the agency had a lot of candidates. 3 young and beautiful actresses were picked out first. They stood at a distance, and Lemon looked at them, and found that he was a little familiar with them. One of them was Emmy Rossum, the former heroine of The Day After Tomorrow, the actress who was replaced by Eva Green. She came from a single-parent family and performed at the Metropolitan Opera in New York since she was a child. Another child star debuted. The other one was Amber Heard. This woman was Johnny Depp's third wife in a parallel universe and was also the party involved in Depp's domestic violence in later generations. But in this matter, the two of them argued with each other and finally settled out of court. The truth is unknown. Of course, Lemon never cared about other people's troubles. In terms of conditions, both of them are excellent. At least in terms of appearance and acting experience, they are not lacking. This time, I heard that Lemon was producing a TV series, which was inserted by CAA and ICM. As for the last remaining actress, Lemon had no impression. The audition ended quickly, and Lemon kept them again. Is the interview result going to be announced now? Several women stood there a little nervously. They are now third-tier actresses. They have acting experience, but none of them have become famous. The leading actress in Prison Break still has some weight. Emmy Rossum had met Lemon before, when she auditioned for The Day After Tomorrow. At this time, she smiled and nodded to Lemon and said, "Hello, Mr. Lemon." Seeing that Emmy Rossum seemed to be able to talk to Lemon, the remaining two competitors inevitably became more nervous. Unfortunately, nervousness is useless. Lemon said, this role in Prison Break will be played by Emmy Rossum. Emmy Rossum's eyes lit up, and she smiled and said, thank you, Mr. Lemon. This result is not surprising. In Lemon's opinion, Amber Heard is not incapable of acting. The two are actually on paragraph. But in order to make the production go smoothly, he even changed the original heroine. How could he find an old man to join the group? This woman's scheming is first class even in Hollywood. When she was in love with Depp, she took advantage of his resources. After the divorce, she did not forget to raise the banner of feminism and step on Depp to create momentum. Regardless of the right and wrong, this courage, this planning and execution ability, she is definitely not a good person. Seeing that the role has been decided, the other two people are a little disappointed. After leaving, Emmy Rossum is still left in the reception room. Lemon ordered, you are signed with CAA, let your agent come to talk. Yes. Okay, you go back and prepare first. As soon as she went out, another person came in and heard someone inside. Amarina Lasco? Yes, I am. Why are you acting if you don't want to be a doctor? I can't refuse the opportunity to enter the entertainment industry. Haha, where is your agent? Ask him to discuss the performance contract. Emmy Rossum was listening in the corridor. When she saw the other party coming out, she said, hello, I play the prison doctor Sarah in the play. The other person was stunned and said shyly, hello, I don't know what to say. This guy graduated from the University of Puerto Rico. Later, he studied in medical school and was spotted by a director and played a minor role. From then on, he couldn't stop. Not only did he abandon his studies and run to New York to develop, he also went to a drama school to study acting. Well, his girlfriend is more famous than him now. She is the female supporting role in the popular TV series House MD. The two chatted for a while, and Amarina Lasco couldn't help asking, Miss Amy, what does that person in there do? He was a little confused from the time he went into the time he came out. Until now, he hasn't come back to his senses. How could it be so fast? The role was decided after just a few questions. You don't know him? Amy Rossum was also surprised. She thought, you got a role so easily, didn't you use a back door? What does he do? Amarina Lasco became more and more confused. He is the producer of this drama and a famous film director. Amarina Lasco was silent for a moment, carefully searching his memory, and suddenly said, it's the French director Lemon who shot Bad Guys. Is it him? You came here without finding out anything clearly? I received the news of the audition yesterday and rushed over from New York. Amarina Lasco said happily. Well, it's a good thing. When I was in school, I often heard the students who studied acting around me bragging about the interesting things in Hollywood. This is a successful new representative in the industry. After waiting for a long time, his own agent also received the news and rushed over. This opportunity that Amarina Lasco got, first of all, let him really have an exclusive agent. Before, as a minor actor, usually one agent was responsible for a lot of things, and few agencies provided any help. For auditions, you have to be notified and go to participate individually. However, most newcomers come this way. It's not unfair. After a while, the agent successfully signed the contract. Amarina Lasco asked quickly, how's it going? The agent was in a good mood, having received a commission for signing the contract. One look at Amarina Lasco's look reminded him, the salary is $30,000, and the estimated filming time is 2 months. If it exceeds that, there will be additional pay. However, they asked us to sign a long-term contract. Also, you have got the script for the role. Remember to think about it more. It's not settled once you sign the contract. If there is a problem with the filming, they have the right to terminate the performance contract. I know. $15,000 a month is much better than his role as a minor actor. The most important thing is the amount of scenes in the performance, and the weight of the role is also heavy. Chapter 395 sequel released. Please subscribe and recommend. It took another 3 days to confirm the actors for all the roles in Prison Break. The basic structure is also a loop of old and new. For example, the perverted killer, who is more challenging in acting skills, is played by Robert Nepper, and the gangster boss is played by Peter Stormer. During this period, Lemon was exhausted just by promoting the preparations for the crew. On the contrary, when the shooting phase was about to begin, he suddenly became idle. The various affairs of the crew were successfully entrusted to several directors. Since Lyman took over Lyman Films, the development of his company has only slightly recovered, and the general trend is not more harmonious than before, and it can even be said that it is far from the same. Due to the separation of power, Lyman also intervened in the production of TV series, and was regarded by Charles as an ambitious person who would do anything to hit him. There are many people in the company waiting to see him laugh. However, Lyman still pushed his plan step by step. To be honest, with Lyman's current advantages, making movies is definitely more profitable than making TV series. The capital turnover rate is also faster. But in order to acquire Lyman Films, he had to get involved in this business, and even spent a lot of energy to supervise the production of the first film. When the distribution channels were acquired, the film and television empire in Lyman's mind only lacked overseas distribution channels and his own voice channels, TV networks or news media newspapers. There was no rush, and there was no use in rushing. Let's do it step by step. Time entered September. Paramount also stepped up the last wave of publicity and promotion. Compared with the last premiere of Saw, the internal preview of its sequel went very smoothly. Paramount didn't spend much time talking at all, and got a lot of resources from major theater companies in North America. There were 400 more theaters than the previously expected 2,200 theaters, and the scale of release remained at about 2,600. In addition, many theater chains have guaranteed that the scheduling of the opening day will not be less than 20%. As the most mature commercial film market in the world, they certainly have their own calculations for judging the market potential of a film. Saw 2 continues the creepy and familiar style of the previous film, and will surely be loved by cult movie fans. Moreover, the potential audience accumulated by the previous film, if hyped up, and the quality itself is not bad, these are all points that can easily attract audiences. In the last few days before the release, a large amount of money was invested. The momentum of pre-release publicity was very strong. Although Shirley Lansing was a little disgusted with Lyman, she still attached great importance to the profits. It is easy to find news about the upcoming release of Saw 2 in newspapers, magazines, radio stations, talk shows and outdoor hard advertising. The publicity, its popularity is completely proportional to the investment. In the same period, the competitors are not very important. For example, Searchlight Pictures, a subsidiary of 20th Century Fox, will release a feature film Walking Together about the friendship of urban youths. Just hearing the name sounds bad. There is also a low-cost thriller jigsaw puzzle released by Columbia. Compared with them, Disney's Princess Diaries 2, which has been released for 2 weeks, may be more threatening. You know, Anne Hathaway was really pretty when she was young, and this is also a hot sequel, with a cumulative North American box office of more than 120 million. Many media outlets exclaimed at Anne Hathaway's market appeal. Disney was in trouble, as they themselves did not expect that a cliched story could get so much box office. On September 7th, all copies of Paramount's films were available for admission, and the screening of Saw 2 also kicked off. Santa Monica Square is one of the commercial centers of Los Angeles. Its convenient location makes it a place where theaters gather. At around 5 p.m., most office workers were able to relax. The area around the square also gradually became lively. In the theater, it was the turn of Saw 2. The crowded theater had a high attendance rate. On the big screen, a man was using an iron hook to cut open the belly of a corpse and found a key in the stomach. Such a picture was very heavy, but the atmosphere in the theater was not serious. After all, those who have seen the previous film know what the style of such a movie is. Only some new audiences who follow the crowd will feel a little unable to accept it. The killing machines that resemble torture instruments, and the perverted killer like Jigsaw who knows people's hearts well, are simply terrifying. When another woman cried and begged to be chopped off by the cutting machine, the blood and minced meat solidified into the most. Doug Allen finally couldn't help it. His throat surged, and he retched a few times. His hand tightly grasped the armrest of the chair, and the other hand pressed on his stomach, as if to soothe his violent stomach. Fortunately, he didn't eat anything just now, otherwise he would have vomited it out. Leaning back on the chair again, he could feel his heart beating rapidly in his chest. This movie is really explosive, and people will die if they don't agree. Look around. The audiences around were all staring at the big screen intently, for fear of missing every wonderful shot. The black guy in the second seat on Alan's left hand was still interested in playing with fried chicken nuggets. Thinking of fried chicken nuggets, his stomach churned again. Alan took a few deep breaths. Damn, this director is too good at playing. How can he come up with so many ways to torture people? Alan felt that he was a pervert from the bottom of his heart. The key is that the mastermind behind the scenes has not shown up, only relying on audio tapes or videos with strange masks to explain the clues of escape. But every trapped person can't escape completely. At least until now, 2 have died, 2 have been seriously injured, and 1 has even lost one eye. To be honest, it's quite exciting to just watch the plot. It would be better if there weren't so many hateful close-ups. The kind of shot that faces flesh and blood is really not something that ordinary audiences can accept. But even so, Alan continued to watch it and didn't leave halfway. It was also because of his persistence that the identity of Jigsaw was revealed at the end, which was the highlight of the movie. A highly intelligent pervert who likes to observe his prey up close. Sure enough, the setting of this kind of villain is very memorable. It is clear that Jigsaw is an antisocial personality, and his predecessor was just an ordinary old man. As for his reasoning that people never cherish visible happiness and healthy bodies, it is just an excuse for a pervert to defend himself and brainwash himself. After leaving the theater, Alan was still thinking about this. Perhaps he should buy the disc of Saw 1 and watch it at home. Yes, let's do it. Chapter 396. See the Champion Again. Subscription recommendation request. On the first weekend of September, North America welcomed several new films, and the market remained above the level of year-on-year growth. Saw 2, produced by Firefly Pictures and distributed by Paramount Pictures, continued the popularity of the previous film. It landed in nearly 2,600 theaters on the first day of the release, earning $7.23 million on the first day, surpassing The Princess Diaries 2, which earned $5.36 million, and firmly sat on the top of the single-day box office. As expected, the competition among new films is not as strong as The Princess Diaries 2, which has been screened for more than 2 weeks. Although most of the film reviews in newspapers are still critical, the ridicule of the quality of the film itself is not so serious. For example, The Hollywood Reporter complained that the director's editing of shots always likes blood, which can be avoided with a little attention. Unfortunately, many film critics do not understand the selectivity of the market. It takes courage to give up the cult group that has laid the foundation for some passers-by who may support it. You know, most horror and thriller movies use blood plasma on a large scale, precisely because such fans like this tone. This can be seen from the audience comments on IMDb. Most of them did not say that there were any flaws in this aspect, but instead enthusiastically discussed those sophisticated killing machines. Some alternative film review columns even said the antisocial character Jigsaw is the most successful in the entire series and has some very memorable characteristics. In the end, IMDb's score for Saw 2 remained at 7.3 points. On Saturday, the hired survey company released the latest statistics. The average score of the audience in the theater of Saw 2 was B, and the North American box office was expected to be no less than $60 million. This is a very good reputation and evaluation for an R-rated film. Paramount also formulated a subsequent publicity and promotion plan based on this. With the internet and traditional media industries as the core, the coordinated marketing of online and offline has always maintained a certain level of popularity. As of the premiere day, Paramount Pictures has invested more than $10 million in the promotion and distribution of this film, which is conscientious compared to the cost of shooting. Of course, Paramount has its own calculation rules for input and output, which are in line with market prospects. They did not mess around. The effect is also obvious. On Sunday, the single-day box office of Saw 2 was not affected by too many film critics at all, and the output increased again, earning $9.26 million. It continued to overwhelm Princess Diaries 2, which earned $5.43 million on the same day, and defended the top spot. In the first 3 days of the weekend, the North American box office of Saw 2 exceeded 20 million. However, the audience of the film itself is still too low. According to the survey, the audience is concentrated in young men over the age of 16, and the number of female audiences is very small, less than 10% of the total. Colleagues in the film industry are also keeping an eye on the performance of the market, because they need to determine the future audience direction based on market changes. When they are a little jealous, it is nothing more than thinking that Firefly Pictures has made a good business. Paramount was naturally in a good mood. The only one who was in a complicated mood was Lionsgate, because Lyman personally met with the major shareholder Gustav and asked Lionsgate to lend a hand. The condition he offered was the distribution rights of the subsequent Saw. Although the second part had been produced long ago, and it was not Lionsgate's turn to intervene, most people still felt a little uncomfortable. They were entangled in their hearts. The Hollywood staff of Europa Films also took the copy of Saw 2 back to Paris, France. Basically, after 2 weeks of screening in North America, the overseas market will also be developed. As for Europa Films, their cooperative relationship with Lyman is still good, and the share given is also very friendly to Firefly Pictures. There is no need to worry about any additional changes within 3 years. In the next week, John Fillmore, the president of Lionsgate, even called Lyman to invite him out for a gathering. Lyman was also very respectful and brought Ray Warnell, who had just finished filming Saw 3. When they walked into the private room of the private club, John Fillmore's attitude was particularly enthusiastic. Of course, for a business with an annual revenue of 10 or 20 million, it's really willing to give a smile. After the greetings, before the dishes were served, John Fillmore deliberately reminded Lyman, the box office of Saw 2 is more than 24 million. Lyman waved his hand. Not so fast. The accumulated audience of the previous film has contributed to the box office in the past few days. The current growth has slowed down. It will probably be taken off the screen in a few weeks. Yes, cult films are still a bit niche, but the investment is not much, and it is still profitable. Well, if you add the overseas share, it should be able to make a profit of 20 or 30 million. Lyman followed the topic. This film sells better offline. I heard that it can sell hundreds of thousands of discs in a month at most. This kind of offline performance, even if Lionsgate, which John Fillmore is in charge of, started with thriller and horror films, can't help but sigh. The profit of a disc, minus the cost of sites, burning, transportation and other peripheral distribution, and the profit sharing with offline giants like Blockbuster, can basically bring $2 to $3 of income to the production and distribution companies. The to share it, plus the small profits but quick turnover, and even the potential market that can be sold for several years, it is possible to share $7 to $8 million every year in various profit chains. This is not to mention the money that needs to be paid for TV on demand. All in all, distributors like Paramount are also making a lot of money. Lyman thought about it and said without being modest, this type of movie usually doesn't sell too badly offline. This is true. However, John Feller still asked casually, the market performance of Saw 2 is estimated to be good. Have you considered when to release the third part? Hearing this, Lyman already understood John's purpose. Maybe he was reminding himself. Lyman smiled and said, the sequel has been filmed and is in the post-production stage. If it is to be released, it will definitely have to wait until next year. After next year, you can find a time slot for the release, and we promise to cooperate. The speed of releasing one movie a year is already very fast. If it is faster, it will be killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. Lyman's meaning couldn't be clearer. John Feldmere just wanted to remind him a little. After getting the guarantee, he politely changed the topic of conversation. Ray Nava, as the director of the third part, was naturally introduced to John by Lyman. For a while, the atmosphere became lively. The cups and glasses were clinking, and it was very lively. Chapter 397 Batman Crew. The next morning, Lyman got up from bed. He packed up casually. He went out and drove to Firefly Pictures. In the market, Saw 2 is still collecting box office revenue. But most professionals know that the upper limit of this film will not be too high. This is a common problem of all cult films, which naturally loses a large number of audiences. In addition, a new batch of films entered the theaters, which also reduced the number of film screenings and screens. The trend of daily output decline is very obvious. When he arrived at the company, Lyman looked through the financial statements as usual. When Blake Cole called him and told him that Batman had entered the filming stage, he bought a plane ticket and flew to the UK. In the north of London, about 40 minutes away from the city centre, there stands a large area of magnificent buildings. This is a suburb, and the predecessor of the building was an aircraft hangar named Cardington during World War II. A small part of it was abandoned and destroyed, and most of the equipment inside was moved away, leaving a large empty shell. In the middle of the building, the former number 2 warehouse has now been transformed into a large studio. The entire vault is 812 feet long and 180 feet high. The area inside the shed is equivalent to 16 Olympic-sized swimming pools and can accommodate 8,338 London double-decker buses. In terms of floor space, it is beyond the reach of most studios in the world. At this moment, the roof model, which was arranged as the external streets of Gotham City and built at a 1/3 ratio, has been completed. Nolan also stayed here with the crew for almost 4 days and completed most of the scene requirements. To be honest, it was quite a waste. It cost more than 10 million and nearly half a month of hard work to build it. In the end, it was considered a lot of shots that could be edited for 10 minutes. Although Lyman also likes real shooting, when encountering such a scene, it is likely to use special effects technology to make up for it. However, Nolan, this person, has some connections. He went to the UK to shoot and found that the government approved him a filming subsidy. It was roughly more than 2 million. So, let's respect his choice. Lyman had just got off the plane, and it started to rain heavily not long after. Autumn in London is like this, always gloomy. When Lyman arrived at the filming location, the crew was not filming. It was a holiday. It was raining, and it was not easy to go out on location. He joined the crew and Nolan went out to greet him. The first thing he said was to complain, "You are finally here." Without Lyman to lead the team, the atmosphere of the crew was a little discordant. "I'm too busy." Lyman apologized quickly. The two chatted for a few words, and Nolan ran to the crew to discuss the filming of tomorrow. After delaying this day, many things need to be sorted out again. The director must be a busy person in the crew. Lyman walked around and took a look and called Blake Cole again. Batman Begins was jointly led by the two companies, and he needed to know some of the crew's situation. "How did you feel about the crew after I left?" "Most of it was okay, but those Warner producers always made trouble for Nolan." Blake Cole also had a lot of complaints to pour out. He did not have Lyman's qualifications and achievements, and the people of Warner did not listen to him at all. "Oh, why are you making trouble for Nolan?" Lyman frowned. "They like to meddle in other people's business." Blake Cole complained. "They like to meddle in everything. Even when we were filming, they would complain about the excessive number of NGs." "What about the filming crew?" Lyman asked again. "After your instructions, our people all listen to Director Nolan's arrangements. But the people sent in by Warner Brothers sometimes don't listen very much. And the person from the fire fund always asks Nolan to pay attention to the funds, which makes everyone feel constrained. We don't know how they flirt with the people from Warner Brothers behind the scenes." Completion guarantee. "Well, he said that, if we spend so lavishly, it will be difficult for them to continue to cooperate." "What did Nolan say?" "He explained to that person that the budget will not be exceeded. It is a planned filming." "What about the actors?" "The filming is all okay. No one is acting like a big shot, and no one disobeys Nolan's instructions. At least, on the surface, it's all okay." Blake Cole understood Lyman's personality and knew that he recognized Nolan's ability, otherwise he would not have asked Nolan to direct this movie. Therefore, there was no concealment of Lyman's question, and he was told clearly about the current situation of the crew. After listening, Lyman thought to himself, for Warner executives, they would definitely like to see the success of Batman. But for the people below, it is also very necessary to gain more say in the crew. It is both a qualification and an achievement. People who are submissive are generally not suitable for the film industry. The personnel structure of this play is indeed very complicated. In fact, everyone knows that. Now that I'm here, Tell me if there is anything in advance, and don't cause any conflicts. If there are any problems, I will solve them, understand? How dare I? We have been enduring during this period. The preparations for Batman began in June. The actors joined the crew in July. In the meantime, in order to fit the roles, the actors were also shaping their own characters. In September, the crew officially started filming. In addition to being particular and liking real shooting, Nolan's ability is beyond doubt. The shooting progress is also faster than that of ordinary directors. If the set was not too complicated, it would probably take a few days to finish the Gotham exterior scenes and start shooting the castle scenes. In the crew's residence, after Lyman learned about the crew's situation from Blake, he wandered around again. He didn't look for the Warners, there was no need. In a corner of the crew, Christian Bale was sitting on a recliner reading a book. Lyman went over to say hello, wanting to laugh. This guy was wearing a Batman suit, without a mask, and holding a book in his hands. It looked so out of place. Bale heard the noise, tilted his head and said happily, "Busy man, why are you here? It's not normal for me to come here. And what's the matter with your outfit? We only shot a few scenes this morning, and it started raining. I was afraid that it would be difficult to change clothes after the rain stopped, so I didn't take it off. Looking at the rain, I feel that we can't shoot today. Batman's suit is cool, but it is very troublesome. If you put it on and take it off by yourself, you can't do it at all. You have to have 2 or 3 people to help. This suit is a tight-fitting one specially designed by the costume team to show off muscles. The only purpose of this body shaping is to be able to use his muscular body to boost the box office on the big screen. Isn't it uncomfortable for you to wear it? I'm used to it. If you really want to shoot the Batman scene, you have to wear it for most of the day. However, the clothes are a bit tight, but the material is very good, sweat absorbent and breathable, so it's not that unbearable. Chapter 398 Batman Crew, Part 2. At 6:30 in the morning, the sky was just turning pale, and it was just dawn. The hotel was already busy. Lyman fulfilled his duties as a producer very well, waiting early next to the shuttle bus downstairs. Every time someone came down, he would greet them or lend a hand to put the costumes and props in place. If someone was late, he would have to climb upstairs to urge them. Just like a life butler, when they arrived at the set, everyone prepared for their own work. Those who needed to set up the scenery, set up the scenery, and those who needed to check the props checked the props. Every link in Hollywood is very mature. It seems to be busy, but in fact, the division of labor is orderly. Don't underestimate this. The phrase assembly line can't be summarized in just 3 words. This is the foundation and heritage of Hollywood movies that dominate the world. At 9 o'clock, the assistant director came back from outside with more than 100 extras. The scene to be filmed today is that the ninja organization wants to use nerve gas to cause Gotham to fall into a large-scale riot and destroy the order of this city. Batman arrived and started fighting with Henry Duca. The scene was in hangar number 2, and it was built inside, which was quite similar to the shooting style of special effects dramas such as Ultraman. The city buildings with a ratio of 3:1 constructed a miniature Gotham. As for the street scenes, most of them were set in New York City. When we return, we will shoot this section. The scene was gradually prepared. Lyman led people to check various tasks. The costumes have been distributed, and 15 horses have arrived. The rails, smoke-making equipment and the Batmobile are all in place. Let's start shooting. Nolan's voice came from behind the director's monitor. The scene scheduling of this scene needs to be divided into 2 groups, one led by the assistant director to shoot the group performance, the other led by Nolan to shoot the fight between Bale and Liam Neeson. The train carriages were placed on the open space, and the later editing will create the effect of moving. Lyman stood on the side and watched Nolan direct. Quiet on the scene. The script supervisor went up to hit the board. Action. Murphy was riding a tall horse, watching the nerve gas fog invade the entire city, and he was almost crazy with joy. He shouted loudly, "I'm here to save you." But he saw Kate Beckinsale and her child on the street, riding horses to chase after him. As the director of Arkham Asylum, he was arrested because Kate meddled in other people's business. Meeting again at this moment, it can be said that enemies have narrow paths. He gradually approached, showing off his achievements. Oh, by the way, the actor who plays the child is Jack Gleason, the Emperor Joffrey of all ages. While shooting, the assistant director shouted cut. The expression is too calm, you should be scared. It was Kate Beckinsale who had a problem. She apologized quickly, sorry. On the other side, in order to stop the plan of the Ninja Alliance, Batman just inserted the knife he carried with him into the control instrument of the train. Liam Neeson was online. Where's the stand-in? Where's the stand-in? Someone shouted next to him. After the literary scenes, it was the martial arts scenes. The original Batman was so simple in terms of fighting that it was like a child's play. Not to mention that it was not enjoyable to watch. Even the fluency was worrying. In fact, this is a common problem for most Hollywood directors. Few of them have experience in designing actions. In other words, they don't know how to fight and how to set moves so that the whole shot has the aesthetic meaning of violent venting. However, the existence of the Yuan family made up for this area that Nolan didn't know. They are professional in set moves. Yuan Rixiang, Yuan Xiangren and other pillars went to the actors and began to guide them carefully. While making hand gestures, they danced several routines. The two brothers tried to fight each other. In order to let Christian Bale and Liam Neeson see clearly, they used slow motion. Basically, they used every part of the body to attack, which not only maintained fluency, but also had the feeling of punching. Elbow strikes, knee kicks, and even Batman's battle robe can be used as a means of attack. Very imaginative. The two actors followed and learned it several times, and it was generally not bad. Even if it's not good, you can call a stand-in. Not bad, let's do it this way. Nolan nodded in appreciation and called the cameraman over. According to Yuan's instructions, two cameras will be used later. Number 1 will zoom in, and number 2 will shoot the storyboard. Understood. After a while, Lemon also came over to watch. There was no way. He actually had no experience in designing action. He was also confused about how to make the fight look good. It was just right for him to come here to learn some experience. Who knows when he will use it. Several stand-ins put on the same clothes early and stood on the side. If the actor really couldn't do it, they would take as few shots of his face as possible to shoot this segment. After the actors were in place, when they heard the director shout start, they immediately started the routine. Close up fighting is about fierceness. In the shot, the two actors still fought in a decent manner, and then the full scene was completed by the stand-in. He was really lifted up and fell to the ground. The coordination of close-up and storyboard was very useful in the later editing. It can retain many editing points. Why are the actions designed by Yuan Jiaban so neat and smooth? In addition to the routine itself, they can leave room for editing to a large extent. Liam Neeson held down the fallen Batman double and was about to say something harsh. Nolan quickly called cut. Quick, change people. Bale hurried over and was subdued by Liam Neeson in the same posture. The camera immediately gave a close-up of his face. Don't be afraid of Bruce, you are just a mortal wearing a cape, so you can't fight against injustice, so you can't stop this train. Who said I want to stop the train? Bale seemed to have a sure win. Cut, quick. Bale resisted and overturned Liam Neeson again. The camera went over again and gave a partial close-up of the two. Have you finally learned that you must do what you should do? Liam Neeson continued to talk nonsense. I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you. Batman flew out backwards. This section is very trivial to shoot, but the process is actually not difficult. The amazing thing is the proficiency of the Yuan Jiaban, who can always get it done quickly. Lemon and Nolan were both stunned. If Nolan were to design the action with one camera, either you punch and I punch back, or it's staged, just like a fucking boxing match. It's not like a real fight in a boxing ring. As the saying goes, an expert can tell the difference with just one move. Professionals are worthy of being professionals. In terms of the overall action style, it's not as stiff or rigid as Nolan thought. On the basis of maintaining the sense of power, it plays some tricks and routines, making it elegant and smooth, and very ornamental. This is not something that everyone can do. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel. Mundo fanfic novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 399, Batman Crew, Part 3. It gets dark early in London. It's only past 6 o'clock and it's already too cold outside. So, excluding the time for eating and preparing, we only shot for less than 6 hours a day. Fortunately, we finished the group part this afternoon. The scenes inside the studio have been completed. The rest have to go back to New York. Just like this, more than 10 million has been burned. In the last scene, the built interior was completely destroyed. In the evening, everyone returned to the hotel. The conditions of the place where we stayed were actually not very good. Many rooms don't even have a separate bathroom. It's a bit casual, but according to Lyman, it's enough to have a place to stay. After all, it's very close to the shooting location. If you really want to go to the city, it takes more than an hour to go back and forth. It delays things. Of course, many times, when the crew members go out to shoot, they have to carry tents with them. Just like Lyman in Iceland, not to mention the poor conditions. Even hotels and hostels are rare. After finishing today's scenes, the photographer, several producers and Lyman came to Nolan's room that night. A group of people gathered together to discuss the scenes to be filmed tomorrow. Tomorrow's scene is about Bruce Wayne falling into a deep pit when he was a child and encountering a bat, which left a psychological shadow. This is the foreshadowing of the entire movie at the very beginning, and it is also a symbol of Bruce Wayne's identity as Batman and his fear of his own heart. If the beginning is not filmed well, it will basically lose its appeal to the audience. At the same time, this is also a relatively difficult scene to shoot, because all of these scenes are carried out by child actors. Children are not like adults. They have a very mature worldview and can substitute into the role through their own structure. The script is actually very simple. Two little kids, that is, Bruce and Rachel, are childhood sweethearts. When playing together, Bruce accidentally fell in. After being rescued by his father, he comforted him. Nolan divided the scenes to be filmed and assigned tasks to each group. Lyman was there to control the situation. If everyone agreed, he would be invisible. If anyone had an objection, he would speak out to refute. Anyway, since he joined the crew, the whole crew has become much more harmonious. The people from Warner are not as domineering as before. For many things, Lyman would put pressure on Warner executives without asking for his opinion first. He did not make it clear what he was doing, nor did he say that he would not let Warner people interfere in the filming. Just 2 words: cooperate. Those who did not cooperate with the director in the filming, and those who made some small moves in private, were all warned. The result of this was that the crew had less friction and the filming was smoother. Several producers from Warner were all angry, but they did not dare to sabotage. The premise of the struggle for power and profit is that the film must be successful. If it really fails, one by one, they will not be welcomed by Warner. Obviously, with Lyman there, Warner executives are more willing to listen to him. He is the chief producer. After the arrangements were made, everyone went back to rest. Several Warner producers gathered together and watched Lyman's back as he left. One of them said bitterly, "Paranoia, arrogance, and a one-man show. Sooner or later, this movie will be ruined in his hands." Another producer was a little tired. He was scolded by his boss in the afternoon and didn't want to get involved in the personnel struggle. Whether the movie will be ruined is a matter for the future. I'd better just do my own job well. The first one who spoke was a little unhappy. If we don't fight, why should we join this crew? If we help them, how will the crew members look at us? Okay, that's your business. After that, this small group seemed to have cracks. A crew is like a small society. Everyone in it has their own ideas and closely related interests. When everyone gets together, it is inevitable that there will be collisions, leading to various disputes. In the big direction, no one wants the movie to fail. Putting aside this result theory, who would dislike that they have too little say? The higher you go, the more you care about this. Don't expect to control other people's thoughts with personal charm in this world of fame and fortune. That's very naive. It can bring tangible benefits, which is far more direct and effective than unreliable things like convincing people's hearts. Or the person who controls the set can suppress everyone so that they can't raise their heads. For example, the tyrant Cameron. His nickname is the noisy criticism of all the filming staff. Let's put it this way. Why can a successful director easily network the best behind the scenes filming team in the entire industry? Because he can succeed, and following him can earn more Franklin and more honors. If you don't have these two things, no one will pay attention to you, no matter how bad your temper is, and the team will separate, even if they cooperate closely. Nolan is not successful enough, so he needs Lyman to hold the line. Because he has almost no experience in shooting first-line productions, even if he has 3 box office successful works, he still lacks a lot of persuasiveness. Nolan is actually very grateful to Lyman. Not only did he recommend himself to direct such a work, he also respected his own filming concept. As the person with the most say in the entire crew, he will appear when needed. When the crew was filming, he was almost completely invisible. He gave Nolan enough power to control the set as a director and just watched everything with his eyes. He knew very well what this meant. In addition, other people, including the representative of the insurance guarantor, also behaved much better, which must have something to do with Lyman. Lyman's attitude made it clear that he wanted to support him. Nolan had also thought about why the other party did this. Before this, the two had never met. A first-line director with a rising reputation, and a second-line director who was still catching up. It was very strange. Yes, this appreciation and gratitude was buried in Nolan's heart. He was not a very expressive person, but he felt that the only thing he could do was to live up to Lyman's trust and shoot the movie with all his heart. The next day, the Batman crew had changed the location. At a rent of $8,000 a day, they rented the luxurious manor built by the Rothschild family. This manor covers a large area. There is also a very wide grassland. It is said that it was where the nobles used to race horses. There is such a large estate in the north of London, England. It's so luxurious. As soon as they entered the manor, Kate Beckinsale joked, "This villa probably costs more than 100 million to buy." Lyman laughed and said, "Even if you have so much money, it depends on whether the owner is willing to sell it." This house itself has a history of several decades and has been renovated several times. Actually, this place is not suitable for living. Indeed, this is an old house. The owner doesn't live here. He only occasionally hires someone to take care of it. Otherwise, they wouldn't rent it to us for filming. Chapter 400 Batman Crew Part 4. The crew members arrived one after another. The assistant director was discussing the play with 2 young actors. Lyman walked into the living room. The stagehands were moving the filming equipment under the watchful eyes of the villa's housekeeper, while Nolan was chatting with a middle-aged white man in his 30s. The man was the owner of the property and seemed to be the 5th generation of the Rothschild family. His ancestors were still very rich. As soon as Lyman came over, Nolan and the others turned their attention to him. When you come to someone else's old house to shoot, you naturally have to get along well with the owner. Lyman took the initiative to extend his hand to thank him, to show his goodwill. Nolan introduced him from the side. "This is the producer of the film, Lyman." The man nodded, not enthusiastically, nor coldly. He just nodded very casually and smiled. "I wish the movie will be a success." The man just came to take a look at the crew and didn't stay long. After leaving the housekeeper to watch the scene, he left quickly. Because a lot of bad scenes must not be shot in real life, special effects are needed. Nolan thought about it and decided to shoot the bed scene first. Don't get me wrong, this bed scene is not the same as the other bed scene. It's just a scene where young Bruce Wayne is frightened by a bat and put on the bed by his father, and then the foreshadowing is set. The actor who plays Thomas Wayne is Linus Roche, a native British actor. This guy has only acted in TV series, and this is his first time to shoot a movie. However, acting, the two are connected. Besides, he doesn't need any acting skills. There are not many frontal shots at all. Even young Bruce has more scenes than him. The location is in the bedroom of the manor. The little boy changed into pajamas and lay on the bed. Nolan felt that it was almost time and nodded to the assistant director. The latter shouted, "All departments get ready." The stage manager came on stage and left. Action. The camera immediately focused on the little actor. The little boy's mother was watching on the side, more anxious than the little boy himself. The little actor was very calm. As someone taught him at the beginning, he closed his eyes and pretended to sleep for a minute or two before slowly waking up. Then Linus Roche came on stage, dressed in elegant clothes and with his hair combed meticulously. After watching his son wake up, he comforted him. "Do you know the value of wrestling? It is to teach us to stand up." Bruce has not recovered from his fear yet. With the macup in place, his face is a little dirty and pitiful. But his father is still talking. "Do you know why they, bats, attack you?" The little boy answered timidly, "I don't know. Because of fear." Thomas Wayne smiled. "All creatures are afraid, even those scary bats." The little boy understood that it was his existence that scared the bats, so they flew out of the pit in fear. After figuring this out, he slowly smiled. Seeing his son recover, Thomas Wayne took out a gift box from behind. He said, "Tomorrow is your mother's birthday. Do you think she will like this necklace?" The necklace in the gift box is very delicate. It is a design of Tiffany this year and has not yet been released to the market. The little boy looked at it and nodded in agreement. "Mom will definitely like it." Click, pass. Nolan shouted, and the crew immediately moved. The sponsor of this play is very rich. A necklace can earn 2 million yuan for a 2-second shot. The whole manor scene took 3 days to shoot. The two young actors needed to explain the play patiently, and there were a lot of empty shots to shoot. Empty shots are shots of scenery without characters. They are often used to explain time, transition scenes, metaphors, and symbolize certain deep meanings. For example, shooting the sky overnight is a typical empty shot. Most of what Nolan has to do is to shoot empty shots in the pit. This part will definitely be used in post-editing. After completing the manor scene, the crew moved to a theater in London. It was also here that Bruce Wayne's transition to Batman began. They watched the opera together as a family. Bruce couldn't help wanting to escape because he saw the actor playing the bat on the stage, which reminded him of some scenes in the pit. His father Thomas Wayne saw that his son had not really walked out of the shadow, so the family left early. From here, we can also see the cleverness of Nolan's plot design. Tiffany is just one of the sponsors, but he made reasonable use of the necklace to promote the plot. For example, when he went out, he met a homeless man with a gun. Thomas Wayne handed over all the cash on him as the homeless man asked. He thought the homeless man would leave like this, but when he took the money, he set his eyes on the pearl necklace on his wife's neck. Exquisite jewelry, even at night, cannot rob it of its brilliance. The homeless man pointed to Thomas's wife and said, "Hand it over." Thomas was puzzled. The homeless man repeated, "I mean jewelry. Give it to me." As he said that, he wanted to grab it with his hands. Thomas Wayne pulled his wife over and tried to stop him. Bang! The gun went off. The homeless man shot Thomas, who was blocking him, without hesitation. He didn't know that the man in front of him was the richest in Gotham, nor did he know that he would get more if he blackmailed him. It was like a black humor. The armed robbers just saw that these people were well dressed and should look like rich people. This should be enough to sentence them to death. Bruce was stunned and stood there stupidly. His mother cried and screamed. The homeless man thought that she would make a noise and attract the police, so he immediately fired a second shot. Bang! It was a very unpleasant sound. Another life was disappearing. Click. Nolan called a pause. He stretched out his hand to let the assistant director explain the scene to the little actor. In the previous segment, the performances of the adults were all okay. The little actor was really too calm, or he was just like a spectator and didn't participate. Of course, we can't be so harsh on children. It's normal to not understand death. After a few more takes, the little actor still didn't have much room for improvement. The assistant director simply asked his mother to explain the scene to him. I don't know what the mother said. In the next take, the little boy was trembling and trying his best to suppress his fear. His facial expression was also very vivid. Passed. Nolan finally nodded with satisfaction. According to the shooting log, this shot should be completed within 2 days. Now it's done smoothly, and the crew members are very happy. In fact, for the shooting crew, it doesn't matter who is in charge. The fear is that there is no unified command voice, and no one obeys anyone. This is the most troublesome. Fortunately, after the crew got back on track, many things got better. The shooting was stable and the film was progressing fast. Just as the crew turned to Iceland, Saw 2 was officially taken off the shelves in North America. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.